Like no downtime.
Okay,
now.
yeah.
It's like they were just like constantly at each other and some like good, some like getting along fine, just.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm ready to go.
Take you one and one and we'll see if it's better because mine kinda.
Oh, yeah. Pacific City.
I love that beach though.
Yeah.
I mean, the dune,
Yeah.
you know, is like amazing.
Yeah.
It's like just worth it. You just like, I'm like, run up to the top of that and then run down.
Yeah.
Once a night, we rented a house with a bunch of our family.
You're like,
Keep
yeah.
going.
What? Yeah, Tita's like, yes.
Everyone will be happier, trust me.
That is
We're
like
fine.
Yeah.
every poor mother or
Yeah.
father's method.
Yeah.
For sure.
Okay.
Yes, we are ready when you are.
Okay, it is 6:03 PM, June 18th. And I'm going to go ahead and call to order the June meeting of the Hood River Valley Parks and Recreation District. Okay, we're gonna start with. What about this is for the budget meeting, isn't it?
Oh,
So the public-
yeah, public comment for the budget meeting first. So, yeah, so we are opening up the public hearing for the Hood River Valley Parks and Recreation District 2024-2025 budget hearing.
Okay.
And we are considering public testimony. Is there anybody here or online who would like to give public testimony
Regarding the budget.
regarding the budget? Yes. No one here, no one is online. So we
Okay.
close the hearing.
Okay, we can go ahead and close the hearing of the budget. And then we'll go ahead and take comments, general public comments.
So, yeah, so now we're starting the actual meeting,
Okay.
opening the regular meeting. Yep. And now back to, yep, public comments. So is there anyone who would like to provide comments? All right, sweet.
Okay.
Linda Maddox on Dana Lane, Wood River. Yes, I would, because I was just at a court meeting last night. And they're trying to start a foundation and then they're also, did you know this? They have a foundation and also, two things that you're doing. And, an advisory group or something.
Mhm.
And so I thought, I just was tearing my hair out watching watching what they were talking about. And I think I've been alive too long. Anyway, I've seen too much and just in total, like incompetence, et cetera, and just what they're trying to do. Good people, not bad people. They just don't know what they're doing. And so, I don't think that I got looking at what is happening here, what was happening today and their agenda and all. And I got thinking about things that have happened to me. Like I just found out a few months ago that you guys had an option on the property in, Parkdale. Because I was complaining about all of that, as you all know, and then I found out we had an option. I don't know where I happened to find it, but somehow it came across my screen and found it. Somebody told me, I think, and I thought, what's so frustrating as a public person who loves the community, who's been here now for 38 years. And who came here for the sports, unfortunately has grown old and can't do anything much but walk. And now, and the thing that's so frustrating is that it'll hit, both with the program and also with your group, is that we get so into our groups that we don't realize we have to deal with the public, especially when we have bond issues that are going to be coming up again. And we need the public behind us. And we need to engage them. We need to be transparent. That's the thing about the not knowing that there's an option. I realize now you've applied for a grant for the Parkdale property, and which I totally support doing that. However, I wasn't told. I mean, and it wasn't anybody who was trying to, be mean to me or anything. I just wasn't told information. So I got thinking about this and I thought, you know what? I don't even know. Here I come to the meetings off and on for a year. And I don't even know what your goals are with the two different groups that you've got. And I thought somewhere, like just on your page, it would be great to have what their goals are or what they're trying to do and who they are. Some of them, like for example, I came in here and found out that this is a neighbor of mine for many, many years. She worked with my husband and, et cetera, et cetera. But I haven't seen her in a long time because I live in another part of town. And so I'm just thinking that if we're more, just transparent, told people what's happening, and then, and so that way you're going to be gaining people of support and also knowledgeable people. And, I mean, they'll have knowledge of why are you doing this or that, and can say, oh, well, that blah, blah, blah. And then clear up and then maybe get some more people walking in the same way. Okay, but it's just because I was tearing my hair and I'm sorry to go out on mute, but it's just, it's Linda, again. And a lot of people know me because I was in planning commission for years and many other committees, and also have been very involved politically here and trying to save places, including the waterfront park and boat basin and all sorts of more sport, all sorts of different things. So, but you've got to basically, if you're thinking about, and you're gonna be going again for a measure and to get this done, and you need everybody, so you need to, yeah, still love him and good, and put it out, so even we can just go to your webpage and I can say, oh, yeah, well, I know her, or I knew her, we can talk. And, because that's, anyway, that's enough, I've gone way over the as usual. And, but I just needed to get that off my chest. Now, I may have other ideas, and I know, see, I know I can talk with you at any time. I've been fairly busy, very busy, actually. But I think just as the group as a whole, it's really good, and to have everybody actively involved. Don't know your name.
Martha Verduzco Ortega.
Okay, you're in Odell?
I'm in Parkdale.
Parkdale, okay, yeah, I'm Linda Maddox. Yeah. And so, yeah, so anyway, I'll get out of here. I'm gonna go, because I know you got your handbook and all that.
Yep.
And,
Hey, Linda. Pleasure.
well, I just had to.
Just a reminder, I mean, the minutes are all on the website.
Oh, I saw all the minutes.
And so all that we talk about in purchases are in those minutes.
Right, but you don't get the detail, which
Mhm.
I unfortunately, from coming from my area's land use is all about detail. So that's where I come from, and you guys, I mean, Mark knows this for sure. And, that's my area, and so you're into the actual legal stuff, and, yeah, I will try to stay.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah, thank you for coming.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you.
Good job. Yeah.
Nice to meet you.
See.
Minutes.
All right, we have the minutes that are in the packets, if you have a chance to read them. Yeah. Entertain a motion.
I will make a motion to approve the minutes from May 21st, 2025 as written.
Well,
problem.
should we clarify there was some changes or not?
I have re-updated
So it depends on when you looked at
Yeah.
it. It was all like.
I looked
kind
at
of-
them.
Got it, because I put it on like right after I.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I looked at them this morning, I haven't changed since then.
You're good, I'm just.
I can tell you like what the
Okay.
changes were.
Yeah.
They were pretty small.
Pretty small.
Like,
Okay.
one of it was clarifying that the swim lessons are highly subsidized versus free, and one was like. Where the school district is being discussed, it referenced like the district a lot, so referencing like which district are we talking about? Like, this, I think that was.
Yeah,
it,
just
right?
clarification, yeah.
Those are the ones I read. That's
Sounds good to me then.
what I'm making a motion to approve.
Yep.
Okay, okay, great.
Second.
Right, all in favor?
I.
Aye.
So Gio had to run up to Golden Eagle really quick to drop off something to Jaime for families at Golden Eagle.
Family
So
day.
we might need to, go to the next.
We'll come back to Gio when he gets back up here. But I will just say, like, we are so busy here at Parks and Rec that, we've got multiple things going on tonight. Jaime is up at, an event that we are, putting on up at Golden Eagle right now, and so Gio's pitching for him tonight, but it sounds like he needed to run something up there, so, yep.
What's the event?
Families at Family Man at Golden Eagle, so.
So it's
usually-
Familia at Golden Eagle tonight, but it's sponsored through Hood River HRAS.
Yeah.
And then usually they have a community partner
Uh-huh.
co-sponsor the event, and it's every I guess, Wednesday evening and
It's usually
stuff.
Thursday evening.
Yeah,
That's usually,
So this is a special location and a special night this time, but we did that, we moved it there. So for the last 3 years, we have sponsored, one of the nights, and the nights that we sponsor, we help them with Latino outreach. And we do, a lot of advertising in Spanish. You might have seen, Jaime had
We
a
helped them
video
out
that you guys
with
helped
that.
him out with, yes, and put out there. It's been up on Instagram and Facebook and such, and all of our print materials in Spanish. We have a Spanish language up there. We're really trying to do an outreach there. We've had it at Family Man the last 2 years, but we thought, let's bring it a little bit closer, and do it at our facility, at Golden Eagle, and do it, where, it's just a, maybe a little bit easier for families to get to. And that's what we're trying this time,
And
so,
free parking
Yes.
versus.
Mhm.
Family
Family
Man, it's not
Man.
free parking.
right.
Take that, county.
So, yeah, so this is it's a fun thing to try and do here on our own, and I'm just was sad, I would have liked to have gone there myself. I'm sad that it
me
was
too.
Yeah.
a night that I had to work. So,
We should just have a meeting up there.
Yeah, it would be good.
Can we make a motion?
Take over the pickleball court.
yeah.
Okay, so
So we can move on to the resolutions. And so the first resolution that we have is to pass our budget. So we just had the budget hearing without any comments. And so the budget was passed by the budget committee originally at our budget meeting on May 8th. And now this budget, this is the LB1 form that is required by the state, and it has been advertised for the proper amount of time in the Hood River newspaper. That tonight was the budget meeting, and here we are. So you've all seen all of this before. This has not changed since what we adopted. And we will entertain a motion to adopt resolution 2425-8 to adopt the budget. Monica is with us this evening. She's gonna be here to talk about this in case anyone has any questions, or also a couple other agenda items here. So if you have any questions for Monica, and Monica, if there's anything else that you wanted to add.
No, you did great. This is the budget that was approved by the budget committee, just presented to you in the resolution form for formal adoption.
Do we need a motion?
Yeah.
You just say that resolution number and,
Yep.
okay. I make a motion to adopt the resolution number 2425-8 or the resolution adopting the budget.
Thank you.
Second?
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great. Next, is a budget adjustment, and I'm gonna turn this one over to Monica and let, Monica.
Yeah, I will, because as you know, you guys have heard me say, Mark, staff, everybody's heard me through the years, just talk about budget and just remind everybody at the time, it is, we don't have a magic ball, right? We're doing our best estimates based on the information we have, based on our planning, based on the priorities set by the board. And as you go through the year, those shift a little, and we're not perfect. And so it's very common to do a budget adjustment throughout the year. A lot of agencies will do them quarterly, some do them twice a year. So we are doing a budget adjustment to recognize some areas that, we cost a little more than we anticipated. We have a few expenditures such as outreach that were much more than we budgeted, but talked about, planned for throughout the year and requested. So this budget adjustment before you does adjust the current budget that we are just ending this year in, and it brings our appropriations into alignment. And what that really means is the whole point of budget law is in order for it to be spent, we need to appropriate it. And that's what you're doing when you adopt the resolution. You're appropriating on how the money is spent. And of course, because we're fund government accounting, we have to have balanced funds. So we show you the revenue in and where it is appropriated going out the door. And so what this budget adjustment in front of you for this year is increasing our beginning balance by 85,000, which is real. We budgeted 610. The reality is it was just right about 700,000. So this is real money that we have. It's bringing the budget amount in alignment to reality. And then we are increasing some appropriations of expenses, 36,000 in payroll, which includes workers' comp, Oregon Family Paid Leave, some of those expenses that we undershot. And it also then puts 49,000 in all other expenses. Now, this is just for the administration department within the general fund, because as you saw the resolution you just approved for next year's budget, the general fund is split by department: administration, aquatics, and parks. So we have to make sure that we're spending appropriately within those three departments. So while the general fund as a whole for this year is within our budget, we're not exceeding the budget as a whole. Administration itself is a little more than we anticipated. So this brings us into alignment for this year.
So on the all other operating expenses, the 49,000, is there a certain area that's, I mean, you're saying administrative, is there a certain bigger, like a big chunk of that where most of that's going or went?
Well, it's a little bit of a combination. I have the list. It's so our workers' comp, well, our liability insurance, we projected the increase that we were given, but it turned out to be even more. That's 12,000 more than we budgeted.
Yeah, insurance went up.
Yeah, all the facilities, the parks, it went up significantly. Now,
that
we're not
tracks.
seeing that big of a jump for next year. So the big jump was the year we're in right now, and we undershot that for sure. We spent we're expecting to spend about 6,000 more budgeted for outreach and communication for the public outreach. So
Okay.
there's some of that stuff. We have some trainings that we didn't pay for, that we didn't budget for. And the other thing is, this was really the first year with that shift where the general fund took on a lot of the overhead expenses for recreation and then just started charging recreation that overhead, right? We did an analysis on what the overhead rate would be. And then general fund picked up those overhead costs such as utilities. And we undershot that expenditure as well. Utilities really went up. So it's a combination of those things. But I would say the
All right.
biggest one that we missed was our liability.
Yeah.
Which then that adjustment has been made in the future budget.
Yeah. Thanks for the
Yeah.
answer. Appreciate it.
Yep.
All right.
Well, so I had asked the question via email about the reserve. So.
Yeah, let's-
Move to unappropriated. Can you
Yeah.
explain? that?
Yeah, great. Thank you for bringing that up. So that's more of a housekeeping item. So Oregon State budget law says to us and everybody, if it is a reserve amount, then technically you cannot appropriate it, meaning you cannot spend it because you're reserving it for future years for a purpose. Therefore, if it is unspendable, we cannot appropriate it. Therefore, it would live in the same bucket as our unappropriated money. So we got a letter, a love letter I call from the state, letting us know that we should not have appropriated our reserve funds. So this is really a housekeeping item to unappropriate them. And it puts them into it combines it with our unappropriated amount, meaning it is even more protected actually.
Okay, so moving it out of reserve, I'm just gonna restate it to see if I understand.
Yep, yep.
Moving it out of reserve, because reserve is for a specific purpose, and into unappropriated, though both of them are basically saving money for the future.
Yes.
So moving.
The one's in the general fund, so you can spend it still, whereas the other way you couldn't spend it.
Well, no, so technically, so unappropriated, you cannot spend. The only way the law allows you to spend unappropriated is if you have what is the state will deem a natural disaster. That is the only way you can spend unappropriated funds. Reserve funds, you can only spend, generally reserve funds are reserved by a resolution of your governing body, and they're reserved for a purpose, right? They're intended for some future purpose. You're building for something like a new tent over the pool or whatever you're building towards, and you're reserving that money, and the years you're saving it, we are not to appropriate it because we cannot spend it because we're saving it. So hopefully that
So-
makes sense. You can have a reserve in general fund, but we just cannot show that it's spendable.
Can these changes only be made during voted on budget adoptions, or can they be made during adjustments throughout the year? Like you said, if it's semi-annual or quarterly, then agencies can choose to make those changes at that time?
Yes, you can make changes throughout the entire year. If you need to, you can do it monthly. It just depends on how big the change is and and if you already have appropriated, if you're not creating a new fund or a new category, because if you're doing something like creating a new fund, a new category, then you have to have a public hearing to do that.
Got it.
But if you're doing a budget adjustment, which is adjusting it within parameters set by the state, you can do so via resolution at a regular board meeting.
Cool. Thank you.
Just a reminder, this is actually our second budget adjustment this year. Our first one was done at our very first meeting in July.
That's what I thought I.
Yeah, when we didn't pass the bonded levy, we had to adjust the budget because we had put in there, which was advice from the state, but assuming that we would pass.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because we could always go backwards, but we couldn't go forwards. If we had done it the other way, if we had waited to put the money in, so.
So why doesn't it show an unappropriated line there? I know it's like maybe a weird question, but why isn't it showing that it's like moved to unappropriated and then that's a line that's there?
So do we have it in our modified? I was just looking at the slide before that to see if it was in our modified. So the reason it's not on your resolution is because we are not appropriating it. So right, this is appropriating it, making funds spendable. And you'll notice on this resolution, there is no unappropriated money. If you can actually go, Mark, if you can actually go back to the resolution we just approved for next year's budget, it's a really good example.
Okay.
So you'll see here, if you look where it says total appropriations, all funds, and then there's a line under that says total unappropriated amounts. If we had reserve amounts, it would say total unappropriated and reserve there.
Okay.
But if you'll notice on this particular one, when we're adopting the budget, we are required by the state to show the appropriated and the unappropriated for the total of the budget. As you move forward through the year and adjust your budget, then we show the appropriated only.
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
Is there detail to see for recreation, or that's not really anything to see
When-
detail on that?
No, I didn't do a detail slide for recreation. Recreation is, again, we're moving the contingency up into the operations, because we're close. We're gonna be very close. We currently are not over that 686,000 that is budgeted. But given we still have a couple of weeks, we're so close that,
It's a just in case.
it's a just in
And-
case, contingency is there for this purpose, and I would rather use it instead of exceeding our, budget amount and getting an audit finding. I would much
Mhm.
rather ask you, for the permission to use the contingency.
I would say even with general fund, it was the same thing. We actually originally were just doing the recreation fund, and then I, contacted Monica and was like, "Hey, can we just take another look at the general fund here?" And she took another look and was like, "Yeah, well, we might as well." And so we decided
Yeah.
to go ahead and do it. But both of them were very, very close. We're just, you can't go back and do a budget adjustment after the
Yes.
fiscal year is closed. And so, unless we're completely comfortable, I think it's just better to do this. Cause it's better to do it and then not need it than need it later and not be able to go back and do it.
All right.
So we can entertain a motion for resolution number 2425, number 9.
Gosh.
I make a motion to approve resolution 2425-9 fiscal year 2425, adopting the budget adjustment as written.
And I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a suggestion to actually do the employee manual since we still have Monica on the line right now, and then we can, cause she's in Kentucky and she's a little later than us right now, it's just that time.
It's-
So we'll go ahead and take care of Monica, and then we'll skip over these.
Sounds good.
All right. If that's all right with everybody?
Yep.
All right. Okay, so, yeah, because I want to have Monica here as well because she works
Oh.
very hard on this. So if you remember right, our employee handbook, we've been working on it for a very long time and we brought it to you in February. And it was long and a little difficult to read, and that was most of our feedback was boy, this is kind of a tough one to read, and if we could figure out a way to shorten it. Now, there's a lot of things in here that we just can't shorten. A lot of that stuff is federal and state law. Things like a whistleblower policy. I mean, the language is verbatim. We have to use this language and it's in there. But what we could do, and Mike actually gave us this suggestion, was do some links from the documents to point people to the other spots that they can find that. And so we also hired a graphic designer to make it look prettier, to shorten it, to put those links in and create kind of a live document with links and everything in it. And he did, I think, an excellent job. It was Roundtree Rouse of Pageworks Design here in town. We've worked with him for many years. In fact, he's the guy that designed our logo about 15 years ago or so. But he put this handbook together. We did nothing of real substance changed in the changes we've done since February. It was mostly design stuff, but there was a couple of things where we just made the language a little bit more readable and streamlined where we could, without having to do something around state law.
We did, and we took your feedback from when you saw it the first time, and appreciated that and updated it, made changes, appreciated all the comments, and really wanted to get a book that keeping our audience in mind, right? That was usable, readable. It's that it would have value. And I understand it's an employee manual. It only gets so exciting, but I was sure excited about it. It looks great. I think it is a lot easier on the eyes. It's, And I think it will, the other nice thing it's done, what Roundtree did is he did this in a program that we can update through the years. So as laws change or as we have policy shifts or updates, we can update this. So that's really important.
Yeah, I think it looks great. You guys did a wonderful job, brought in good people. Definitely easy on the eyes, and feels like it's meant for multiple audiences and will function. I mean, that's the only thing you don't want to have happen is have something that nobody uses for access when it's a resource. And this, I could see both young and old definitely flipping through and getting their needs met and the directions lined up for them. So good work.
Thank you.
Yeah. Massive improvements.
Yeah, this was good. And I appreciated the idea for links and as we grow and just continue that, you know, and we get to intranet, that'll be exciting, right? Because then we can have this online for employees only with all sorts of forms. And I mean, Mark and I talked about, you know, that. And so that'd be our next step. But this brings us into compliance with state and federal laws. It brings us into compliance with what our insurance, you know, our special districts insurance needs of us. And it brings our expectations of employees that we have always had. That didn't change much. The, you know, professionalism and what we expect of employees and how to interact with the public. It that's all still in here. I just think it's easier format. We've streamlined it. We've tried not to repeat things. So it's, yeah, we're super proud of this.
Do you need a formal?
That one's yours?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, we would need a motion to approve the new employee handbook.
I make a motion to approve the new 2025 employee handbook.
I second that motion.
All in favor?
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Shot was when I had my buddy come in.
Mm-hmm.
Got the perfect one right in the window.
So Monica, I think we can say good night.
Thanks, Monica.
Thanks, Monica.
Have a good night, everybody.
Thank
Good night.
We will move back up here to.
Alrighty. All right, everybody, my name is Gio. I'm the recreation assistant for the rec department. If we could go to the next slide, we're just gonna give so this was the highlight of our spring season. We had Zoe Tang, who gained grandmaster status in the world chess rankings. She's a junior. She's gonna be a senior at Westview High School. And so she's a chess master, and Jaime Rivera had the vision to reach out to Zoe and ask if she could come and do a clinic for our chess participants. And she came, and that was March 8th here at Hillsborough Middle School. It was a free clinic with 30 participants plus parents. So as you can see, one picture has the parents and the kids, and it looks like they also got something out of it. Yeah.
That'd have been
It was,
nice.
yeah, it was an awesome event. So that was a highlight of our spring season. Yeah. And then, so these are our spring programs. So we had all youth sports, and then obviously the chess league. So we had youth lacrosse that had about 150 participants in which is a contractor. And then we had our soccer league, which is 3rd through 8th grade. That one had it's also a contractor, had about 350 plus participants. So it's a league that's definitely growing. And then we had our spring ultimate program, which is also a contracting one that had about 20 participants. And in that photo, Marcy's in that photo as well. Yeah, she was one of the volunteer coaches there. And then we had our track and field, which was a challenge this year, because of the instructor. We had a hard time finding an instructor. Towards the end, we were able to find one, Sebastian Barajas, who was he was a state champion at high school, at Hood River Valley High School. So he was able to, yeah, so he was able to make that happen for us. And we had, double check, we had a good turnout. Track and field, we had about 60 kids, so it's a good turnout. Yeah, it was kind of the last minute. We had a month to kind of get that going, and we were able to get 60 kids. We had meets as well, so we had track meets where the kids could compete. So that was awesome. They were able to use the high school track, which was awesome for the kids, and they loved it. So it was a good turnout. We had Mini World Cup also, which is in-house program, and Soccer Tots, which is also in-house. Mini World Cup is kinder to second grade. That's 2 divisions. And 180 kids participate in Mini World Cup with almost 100 in Soccer Tots. And we plan to do that again in the fall. So we plan to open registration here in the next couple of days for that, for the fall. And then our chess league had 62 participants. And those have practices at each elementary school. So we have volunteer coaches who kind of just get them practicing, and then we have a tournament at the end of the season. Yep. And this is our summer overview. So we have our youth sports camps. So we have, I believe, only Eagle Youth Soccer Camp right now has started. That started yesterday, which is a contractor with Hood River Valley High School Girls Soccer. And then we have our Basketball Skills Academy starts in July. Youth football camp starts next month as well. We have our Soccer Tots Academy, which is in-house. And then that starts also next month. Goalie Academy starts next month. We have our baseball camp that starts next month. A lacrosse camp for boys, and that's with a contractor with the boys lacrosse team. We have a track and field academy starting in August with Sebastian Barajas again, and that'll be in-house. And then we have a girls volleyball camp. This one, Katie Kennedy, who is she played D1 at Long Beach. So she is running a camp for us, through her whole athlete wellness business. So that'll start next weekend is the first one, and then we'll have one at the end of July as well. So we hope to get a lot, and that's only for girls. And then we have our youth rec, performing arts or day camps. We have our youth dance camp that started on Monday. We have about 12 students for that. And it takes place here at the auditorium at Hood River Middle School. And that's ran by Jackie Pike. And then we have our mountain bike camp that starts next month with the School of Sand. And then we have our youth rocketry camp through Gorge Rocketry Club. That's a program that's definitely growing. That one will take off this Friday. It'll start on Friday, and then they'll do their launch on Saturday at East Middle School on the field. So yeah, as you can see, there's a picture there with the rockets. So we have about 15 students for that for now, which is a great turnout. And then we have our chess academy as well, starting next month or in August. And then summer kids camp, those are our day camps, which start next week. We're averaging about 20 participants right now, and our max is 40. So we're still trying to get more participants in there. But yeah, that starts next week. And then adult recreation / sports program. So we have the Adult Cornhole League, very popular. That starts tomorrow. Jaime and I are competing in that, so that'll be fun. And then we have our men's baseball league, which starts, I think, at the end of this month. So at the end of this month, we'll start games. Took us a while to get some umpires and grow the league a little bit, but we managed to get 6 teams. So they'll be playing here at Collins Field as well. So. And then we have our women's slow pitch softball league. We have 4 teams for that. And then we have our women's 7v7 soccer league, which started this past Sunday. And they usually play their games on Sundays here at Hood River Middle School. So, and there's 4 teams for that. So it's a busy summer. Some challenges we did have this summer was our tennis camp got canceled due to our instructor not being able to teach that. And we had full camp of registration for that, so that's a bummer.
He did such a good job on it.
Yeah, he did. He's a bilingual, so he offers English and Spanish sessions, so he was doing back to back, and we were able to get 40 kids in last year. This year, we were offering only English, because that's what he could do, and then ended up not being able to do any at all, so that's a bummer. Yeah, so, and we're starting something in the fall is a youth cornhole league, so, hopefully that's something that we can work with, and hopefully it's a success. So, yeah, that's your summer overview, and okay, I don't expect you to read all of that. But this is, obviously, it looks very overwhelming, right? And so that's the whole point. So this is something that is going on between Parks and Rec and obviously the school district with facilities and their updates. These are just updates of the process for facilities this year. Key takeaways, there's minutes versus hours, so I would do most of the reservations for facilities and it would take me minutes, literally it would take just, hey, I wanna reserve on the West Side Field, okay, yes, got you for 4 to 5 p.m., right? Now it's a facilities reservation survey there on the right that you have to fill in. And then, so you can see there's also a process there where it says, it's an email that says, dear community partners, submit a Google form, base it off, refer to the facility availability spreadsheet, and then look at the revised procedure. So it's a process where not every facility is on there on the Google form, first of all. Not every program is on there on the Google form. So if you see, I do the drop-down menu, you don't see our dance program on there, right? And if I had another screenshot, I would show you, there's also not Hood River Parks and Rec dance or auditorium for the facilities. So that's not on there. There's no classrooms. There's no options for adult programs on there. And so we have a
We
bunch
didn't
of.
even have like West Side Fields, like
Yeah.
divvied out between like North Field, South Field. There were no places to put other or, make
Yeah.
it so that there was flexibility in giving the response.
Yeah, so like on that point, it says doesn't provide all programs and facilities, and it's confusing because there's a Google form, but you have to refer to a facilities spreadsheet where it shows. I can't see it, but it shows each program like clubs using all the fields. So for example, Club Westside Metros Soccer Club, they have Hood River Middle School fields, Westside fields, and YU fields. For us, they added, and I have screenshots and snippets of us for Mini World Cup using Cascade Lock Field, which we never used in the past.
Not even
And it's not even in our district.
Yeah.
So they have a spreadsheet with the programs on that drop down menu with the facilities where it says pre-K through second grade soccer has Cascade Locks Field, Mid Valley Field, Parkdale Field, and Main Street Field, right? The club soccer teams have Hood River Middle School fields, YE's fields, Westside fields. So pretty much the nicer fields and the bigger fields, right? So they gave us Cascade Lock fields and Mid Valley fields. And traditionally we use Main Street, Parkdale, and YE's. Why? Because we have teams from all over the district. So
And
from
Westside.
and Westside, yeah,
Yeah.
for games.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we have our Upper Valley teams. Parkdale, they play on the practice the Parkdale Elementary School field. Our Mid Valley teams, they practice on the YE's fields. And our Hood River teams, they practice traditionally on the Main Street field or Westside fields. Those only Westside is not available, YE's is not available according to the spreadsheet that they provided.
Can I?
Questions?
Yeah, so, I mean, to what degree have you had back and forth with the folks that are arranging this? Well, just let me complete my question, because when I hear this, and I heard a little inkling of this before you shared it, the sense I get is someone's doing this who's never done this before,
Yeah.
who's trying to come up with a system.
Yeah.
who doesn't have the context. And they're probably trying to solve the problem, but because they are like coming at this blind, these issues are happening. So to what degree is this perhaps a temporary big frustration that's going to get better?
Good questions.
Yeah.
So I mean, is this current, like, I'm going on here right now, just because I'm being. And all I'm getting is this calendar, and when I do facilities, I don't see anything like what you're.
This is for like kind of internal groups, yeah, they can be kind of invited.
It's a sports alliance.
The
Yeah.
school district is planning on, getting a new program called Facilitron that should be able to take reservation requests and input it. And it's supposed to, I think that they think that it's going to solve a lot of like this issue. So I think the goal eventually will be to use that. So to answer your question somewhat, I would assume that this process would get better. You know, and I would say that yes, I think that they're trying to like come up with a system to manage all of the requests. But what took a short amount of time, rather than just saying, send in your request on one spreadsheet or document and, you know, give some explanations and give us a first choice, second choice, and third choice. They made us fill out a Google survey form for each choice.
Well, and each team.
In each
So
team.
every single team.
In one email, it
Yeah.
says from each team, on the Google survey,
Yeah.
it says each facility.
It was it took, I mean, literally Gio and I sat together and I would say 8 hours total to get in the entire request. It left us feeling frustrated and it left us feeling like it wasn't clear that we weren't sure, like, there's no, because Google doesn't provide like, here's what you submitted, here's what it will look like in your requests, right? It's just like, thank you for your response, right? And so instead we went ahead and created the spreadsheet that we felt like we should be giving them and sent that over in addition to and explaining our facility total fall facility requests.
Yeah, so that was the other part of my question, like to what degree have you shared these frustrations, this feedback with them? Because it's like good for us to know that you have this frustration, but it feels a little bit like this is feedback for the school district.
Yeah,
This is feedback, yep, this
than
is
just-
feedback for the school district. Today I just sent, I have played phone tag with Stephanie Hoppy, who I assume is the person who's been creating this, who has little to no experience with facility reservations. And she's the person in charge of communicating. So I assume that now the communication is going to be going forward with the school district. I've asked to have a meeting with her before we have a meetings with the Youth Alliance on June 24th to go over questions and concerns.
The reason that we're bringing this, we'll try and tie it all together too.
Yeah.
The reason that we're bringing this to you right now also is because the school district will be making major policy decisions that this is kind of what they're trying out right now to get going. And they're doing all this stuff before they've done the policy decisions. Right now, the policy is still that we are supposed to have first priority above all these other groups, and they're bypassing that policy and moving forward with this process before they've done that. But when they update their policy, we're trying to make sure that we can work out some of these kinks, that you're all aware of it, so that if we need to, the board can help us with this. Nan and we'll get to this a little bit in the director's report, but Nan and Martha both wrote some great comments that actually did result in some change. It's not, we're not where we need to be yet, but they wrote some excellent comments to the school board about the policy and what that policy is doing to us right now. And so we want you all to be aware of all this stuff, but yeah, I mean, I will admit that, like right here, there's a line right next to where my cursor is that says we've carefully developed the following process and submitting the draft schedules. While we have put thoughtful planning into the system, we all also recognize this is a learning process and your feedback will be essential as we move forward together. So they're recognizing that it is, that they're figuring this out as we go along, but it's a little frustrating. Today, the deadline, and we did not get any feedback on some of the stuff, and it is, so there's a lot of different stuff in there. So we are, you know, I assume that everyone else is in the same boat that we're in and having some issues as well. It's just, we're, you know, seeing our names not listed under certain facilities and different places like that does not give us a lot of confidence, and we just need to make sure that we can try and get into these places that we need to be, and that they're not giving elite club sports that are supposed to be, according to all of their all of the rhetoric that they shared so far is supposed to be further down the list, that they're not giving them space above us.
Just so we're clear, they still might be giving us preference, we just don't know, correct? At least in this, I mean, the drop down, we're just submitting all the stuff, it's not first come, first served.
We're submitting all this, and then they are supposed to, they're going to have an in-person meeting on June 24th, where with all of the groups on that list that are asking for facility space, they have scheduled 1 hour to try and have all the groups come together and say whether or not they have any issues with the schedule that they've put up, because I think they will send out the draft schedule the day before on June 23rd. And on June 24th, they'll have 1 hour for us to all
It's gonna be a heated meeting.
figure it out. So I think that, I think that they will probably, that there are going to be some issues there, and we will be at that meeting and having lots more conversations with them.
And so my hope is between now and Tuesday, we can have just some clarifying answers to our questions about our relationship. And you know, how closely they're gonna be following, their intention is to follow the original IGA. And what that what we can expect moving forward in terms of like, it feels like the goalposts have been moved, so to speak, and so we don't really, we're feeling really uncertain about where we stand, and so just feeling like we know where we can operate, so that on Tuesday, we're not in a defensive position, but we're in a collaborative position to work with, you know, other groups and talk about that. So I'd rather just have that conversation with them, you know, offline, and make sure that we know kind of like what their expectations are and what we should have for us moving forward, you know, into the next year. So hopefully we can have some of that, but
Yeah.
if we still have, Gio's gonna talk about.
Yeah,
Like
we
another-
have questions, but, so because of that, we also are a month behind on registration for the fall. We typically open registration in mid-May and it's mid-June, so, because we're uncertain on what the facilities is gonna look like, we're not sure which fields, which facilities we're gonna,
How much space we'll have.
how much space we're gonna have, so.
So that's another 2 weeks minimum before either
I mean,
potential.
I think it's, I mean, I think we're just gonna go ahead and open registration
For mini World Cup.
for, yeah.
We found out that,
Right now.
and we'll get that in a little bit, but we found out the youth soccer, who has decided not to partner with us this next year. They opened their registration last Friday, even though they haven't not booked any fields yet. And that was a surprise to us. We weren't expecting that. We'd asked if we could coordinate with them. And their registration went live on Friday, so. So we feel like we're a little bit behind now too, so like,
Yeah.
because if people are registering for, you know, multiple kids, you've got a third grader and you've got a kindergartner. Well, first of all, now you're having to go to 2 separate websites and 2 separate registration systems, and then you've got dates coming in at different times, and we don't know when theirs are going live, so this is all kind of starting right now to become more disjointed. And the opposite direction of where we want to go with coordinating Parks and Recreation. I think the Youth Sports Alliance was created so that we're not competing and we all are working together and that we're all coordinating everything, and so far, we're not seeing that. It's not happening that way.
Survival.
Yeah,
The spreadsheet you were referencing with the Cascade Locks thing, was that a spreadsheet that's like,
it's,
these are the the entities that can reserve space at these locations?
So
So-
it's,
Actually, I mean,
it
it's a,
says like, where is it?
yeah, it says refer to this facility availability
Oh.
spreadsheet. Review the
Yeah.
spreadsheet to determine which spaces are available and which have been designated for group use. So if you have any questions or concerns about the available spaces, please don't hesitate to reach out. So if you want to pull up I mean, because I think it would be,
I can't link to this because these are pictures.
but on, I could drop it into a slide real quick, I think. if
I
my-
mean, only if it.
We probably don't,
Yeah.
I don't know if we need
Make
those
board meeting
details.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But-
I mean,
But
and
so
we're not
it's a
sure how they're
spreadsheet that
gonna-
shows like baseline, here's what's.
Yeah.
Here's what's
available.
available, and Hood River Parks and Rec soccer programs have been assigned to Cascade Lodge.
Yeah.
But already?
Well,
Or
that's,
from the
that's
past?
where it's,
No,
no,
we've
it's
never
like,
been at Cascade.
so.
Yeah, but.
This is where, when we say like the feelings that we are having are causing uncertainty.
Yeah.
Is because it appears that they are designating us and our programs to be placed at Cascade Locks. And there's no explanation, there's no reason, and,
And we have reached out to them.
and,
We're not-
and we assume that we can. My assumption is that perhaps this is, I'm not sure, I'm just not sure why they put that there. You know, it's a huge question mark, but it's also just a concerning question mark.
Okay.
I have a feeling that it can be rectified. But in terms of optics and in terms of like, feeling good about the relationship, it doesn't make us feel good. Let's just put it that way.
Right, but it goes back to Christie's point a little bit. It seems like they're building the plane while flying it. And so you're completely correct that the lack of stability and what could be perceived as disrespect, given the fact they're not responding to requests for basic, like, we're not going to Cascade Locks. We've never been at Cascade Locks. Could
It's
somebody
not even
respond
in
to
our
me?
district.
Exactly, you know, but at the same time, what we're seeing is they're disjointed. And so it's hard to name how much grace we give and how much we push and poke to get our needs met in these situations. But even though we're not getting ahead of ourselves, yes, we are. Martha and Nan going and speaking in front of the board or the school district sounds like the policy changes they're at least giving lip service to are going in the right direction. Everything except adult
Service.
and contracted sports.
I mean, they said that they wasn't gonna start until after next year, that they were gonna let us finish this year off,
Mhm.
correct?
Yeah, well, the policies will go, that's for the payment part, the policies will probably be going into effect, in the fall. For that have to do with the prioritization, but we'll get to the policies, and I mean, I can go to them right now and get into that. But there's still a lot of questions in that language as well. What I will also say on this is, all of these things, while we hope that they can be rectified and we hope that we can say like, hey, I think you guys made a mistake here, we're supposed to beat all these other different fields and everything like that. It's putting us in a defensive position right now to where all of these other groups are getting the spots that they want. And now it's going to be, well, Parks and Rec stepped in and said, no, we actually need that space too. And maybe other groups that are listed under getting those spaces, if we win our arguments and we say, actually, we are supposed to be there, it's putting us in a little bit of a position where it makes us look like a bad guy, like we got in there and we said, no, we need to be back there just to get the space that we've always had. And the space that by the school board's earlier policy decisions stated, and current policy decisions states that we have a right to.
Right, I mean, like, really for the spreadsheet, there was I mean, I guess from my point of view, like, to be an equitable and clear and fair scheduler, you know, like, because they're the schedulers now. It would have been better to say, here's the spreadsheet of our facilities. Here's the spreadsheet with all of the user groups' names. Eventually, this spreadsheet will be filled out based on the request that you give us, right? And it should have been like a clear spreadsheet. Right now, the way it was presented to us was that club sports have prime access to facilities that we would want. Right, and so that is where the optics and like the questions and the trust come into play. It would have been better just to have a blank spreadsheet.
Yeah, that's just really weird. I would have thought that spreadsheet that's linked would have what the school district is using,
Yes,
and then the rest would be
100%.
blank. Like, okay,
Yes.
these fields are available from 4:30 to
There
8 p.m.
Could have been a ton of, a ton of different, more common sense ways that it could have been done. Like, here are the school district facilities reservations. So you know, so that now you can plan your requests around those.
Yeah,
Right, but not there.
yes,
Yeah.
not what it was.
Mm-mm.
When did this go live?
Well,
I mean,
When
last
did we
week,
find out about it? Last week?
yeah.
yeah.
And so,
So
Yeah.
these are, yeah, some questions, and we obviously asked some already, but. Does the school district want to take on the responsibility for recreation programming is something we're asking, you know, just, I mean. They've said no, but it's just like, they're making it really hard for us. I mean, we don't have our own fields, right? They're making it really hard, and they said in the past that they would charge us. So it just, I mean, now we have this, like the Gorge, youth soccer, they don't wanna go through us, which is a big program. It's a big program that generates a good amount of revenue, right? They don't wanna go through us. Why? Because the list of priorities for facilities, now they can just go right after us. If they're not in-house, they can just go after us and get their facilities on their own. They don't need us anymore, right? Because they're not under our umbrella anymore because of the school district list of priorities.
which Mark
So,
will get into. in a
yeah.
few minutes.
But we lose youth football as well. Same thing, same reason. They also asked about insurance, which was a no for that, right?
Mhm.
And then youth lacrosse is a maybe. We have a meeting with them this week. But given the list of priorities, I'm sure they're just gonna go on their own. And that means they're gonna have to get their own registration platform, and do customer service. But most of the fees are facilities, so.
There is a path where we can try and run recreation or run registration for them. They do
Yeah.
their own fields, facilities, scheduling, and we do registration, and we're trying to work out deals with them. In order to do that. So there are some things that we're still trying to do to be able to retain some of these groups. But they're not going to pay us the same amount of money that they had before, and and it's a lot of work.
Yeah. So is this Sports Alliance group only for sports fields and gyms or all facilities, which we talked about? Like the auditoriums it's not an option on the Google form. The classes are not an option on the Google form. Cafeteria is not an option on the Google form. So that's something we wanted to ask too, because of our dance programs, our performing arts camps, or summer kids camps, right? That don't require fields, just classrooms or auditoriums or cafeterias. And also meetings, coaches meetings, right, where we need a space. If this is not available, we need to look for like a cafeteria, which we typically use a cafeteria at Westside for our coaches meetings, for our sports. And then how do we go about reserving for adult programs? There is no communication about this. It's not an option on Google Form. The drop-down menu has no adult sports, and they have not said anything about it. So that's also a question. that we
I
have to-
believe that's their excuse. For not letting us be the priority, because we're not focused on just students.
I think you're right.
Yeah,
I think
and
that-
you
I mean,
were right.
the
That's their
language of their
excuse they
stuff.
use to
Yeah.
not to. Why they're giving priority
They
to other,
think we
the other
put adult over youth, which we don't, you know, the adults
That's
get
what
whatever's
their email
whatever's
said.
left
Don't
over.
work out.
But the mere fact that we serve adults in the first place
Yeah.
allows them to say that, where most of the other groups don't serve adults at all.
Right,
Got it.
yeah. Will we have access to their new facility software, which is Facilitron, and if so, when? I'm not sure when that, I think they're planning on opening that in August. I'm not sure if we're gonna have access to that. So, and then we have 2 full-time staff members, me and Jaime, for this department. Does the school district expect us to run everything in-house? So, given the list of priorities, do they expect us just to run everything?
So
Me and Jaime?
Mark's gonna get to that, and I don't know if you just even wanna pull it up now, because it is like the most important part of this conversation. It kind of goes into his director's report, but the school district has revised their policy, and this is now their second revision. And it's, the language is unclear and it's suggestive that in-house programs for Hood River Parks and Rec will be prioritized, but contracted programs will be seated after other nonprofit organizations. And so,
This was their original policy right here, was, it was K through 12 school program, so that's like, this is like during the school day. And then it was their extracurricular school program, so that's like, there's, school sports, high school football, things like that. And then it was Hood River Parks and Recreation District, community education recreation sponsored programs such as classes, sports, workshops, and they did not differentiate between a contract program or an in-house program. This was the draft that was supposed to go to the last school board meeting, but actually got pulled from the agenda, I think, after Van and, Martha's, comments. But this was as it was written to go at that school board meeting, was, nonprofit and community sponsored programs was third, and including the Hood River Valley Parks and Recreation District. So basically just put us all in the same group. The one that they put up recently, that after the comments, they changed it to us being back at third, but only for in-house programs. The rub to this is the very next thing is youth, local nonprofit groups, and then number 5, other Hood River Valley Parks and Recreation District sponsored programs such as classes, sports, workshops, like adult programs. But what we're wondering here is it doesn't specifically say anything about sponsored, so we're not listed, we're not included in the youth and local nonprofit groups as number 4. We would like to have that be, and Hood River Valley Parks and Recreation District contracted programs. Because if we are not included in number 4, if that's not assumed that we will be part of that, because it's not written in there, then that completely takes away any of our, like anyone's motivation to do any contracting with us.
It's sponsored though, doesn't that sponsored imply also the ones we're contracted with, or no?
so sponsored is an ambiguous word that needs clarification.
Yeah, so they
Right.
theoretically could be already thinking that way.
But that's number, for the sponsored
Number
ones,
3.
Sponsored programs that are youth, focused on athletics.
Yeah.
He's, and it says that Hood River District, fully supports and operates, the last sentence.
Oh, got it. Yeah.
Fully supports and operates means it's an in-house program.
Just to put it into perspective, community education, when it was run by the school district, had in-house programs, but they mostly had contracted programs. They were collecting revenue to make community enrichment activities for people in the Columbia Gorge, right? Accessible. And they were capturing the revenue for that. The intention with the transfer of community education to Hood River Valley Parks and Rec was that would continue. And so that we could still operate contracted programs and in-house programs in order to make recreation programming sustainable. And with that being taken away, it puts the entire program in jeopardy essentially.
Rough estimate, what percentage of our programming falls in 3 versus 5? Is it like a 30-70 split or?
In-house versus.
If you were to based upon the current draft policy, if we were to lump those up, what would it look like?
We have a lot more programs that we run, I think, on right here, but the big ones,
The big ones are
the high revenue ones
contracted.
are contracted, so it depends on how you look at it.
Soccer, lacrosse.
Yeah,
Right, 30-70, 80-20, where are we?
Ali.
That spreadsheet you and Jaime had
Yeah.
that showed the numbers on there.
Yeah, probably closer to 30 or 40% contract programs and 60% or so the other.
So 60% under number 3, 40%.
Yeah, well, not entirely because number 3 isn't all youth. There's a lot of adult programs in there. A lot of the adult programs that we make a lot of revenue on fall under 5.
So still back to maybe 30% in 3, 70% in 5.
I'm not even sure.
Right, yeah,
We could pull it up and give you those numbers, but,
just wanted a rough estimate of what that kind of maths out to based upon what we had prior and then where they're looking to guide us.
what I would say is we were already, and I mentioned, I went over this in the budget before any of this stuff came out, when we had our budget meeting. That we were already in a tough spot where we were having to make up money. In order to be operating in the black. Last year was the last year that we had any money coming in for the staff, and this year we were projected to have to subsidize about $100,000 or so out of our beginning fund balance. And so if we were already behind on that and we lose another third of our revenue or more, we're even further behind now. I've had lots of conversations about like, okay, so what can we do? Like, this also frees up our time, but what can we do with our time to try and make up that revenue and do some other programs here? And we've got some ideas around that. We've also got other ideas about things that we can offer, but some of these groups are coming forward and saying like, yeah, we'll come back to you, but we want to pay less and we want more services. We want you to fully cover our insurance, or we want you to cover,
Stand out.
We want you to do Spanish translation or, for our registration that's not using your registration
Yeah.
platform. Those have been some of the requests.
That being said, that having us at 3, at least in this, and then if we can work out those potential kinks and figuring that out, we could theoretically attract people back in.
Yeah.
Because look, we're at the third, we're gonna get these fields before, the Columbia soccer program, but here's what you gotta do to do that.
as long as we don't have, things barring us from certain fields and things like that,
Right.
which we've never had before, but that's kind of like the direction that we were looking at, facility, like, we just need to be able to.
But if this becomes a policy, I assume that spreadsheet or the whole planning and organizing, that should back to be, bumping back us, up above other programs. If-
Except for number 5.
Yeah, exactly.
So number 5 is the sticking point and,
Yeah.
and it's not in alignment with the original intention of taking over
Yeah.
recreation programming in the school district. And so it appears that the school district wants to capture the money from contracted programs. That's hence the reason why the first question was, does the school district want to take on recreation programming?
Yeah.
So, they're looking to capture revenue. We understand that they're in a facility, budget shortfall. But these are things that are unclear and they're not having these like conversations with us.
And this goes to this. Is our only leverage really the original IGA and the taking on a community ed that we have from yesteryear? Or is there anything else that we are really able to anchor and hold on to? Because that's where a lot of this frustration is. Because it was 3 years ago that we finally acquiesced and supported after COVID and doing all this. And now, to your point, the rug being pulled out, maybe for a budget shortfall, or maybe they're just trying to adapt how it all functions in our community, whatever. But we keep looking back at, man, it was just yesterday that we made these changes and they didn't last that long. Which my question is, how long would this policy last for, even if it did get set in stone for us? But what leverage do we have other than going to, this is what you promised us yesterday? Man, that promise didn't last very long.
Wasn't our leverage the fact that we're more accessible, and that's the whole point, right? We want it to be accessible, Spanish language translations and including everybody in the community, not just the people who are gonna pay the fees for club fees and
Government
stuff.
ease of use.
And so, yeah, isn't that our anchor? And hopefully.
Yes.
I don't know why you refer to that as leverage. It is
Yeah.
that's our selling point.
Right.
But as far as when it comes to leverage, we don't have much. It's actually almost 4 years as of September, and that it's a 5-year IGA.
Okay.
And so, we could argue it and make a big stink and everything and maybe get there's language in the IGA that states that we can bring this to mediation and things like that, but expires in 16 months and they have all the facilities.
But have we been documenting the ways that they've been floating that IGA along the way? Because this isn't the first time we've said, man, it's hard to get some of our needs met. And after Polkinghorne flipped and everything else, we've gone multiple years now with, we've been the good guys and we've kind of been pushed around.
It's not, the IGA has language in there that either one of us are able to change the facilities, last minute for one of our own programs. Cause it is their facility and that's usually the issue that we have. It's usually not that they are giving it, like, this is a very new thing that they are prioritizing other groups over us. Usually it is, the music for teacher forgot to put something in the calendar and now basketball can't practice for the next week because they've got kindergarten concerts going on and they got risers set up in the bleachers or in the gym or whatever. And so usually that's part of the reason that we're getting
Yep.
moved around, or a schedule change is, in Pendleton can't hold their games anymore because of snow or whatever, and they have to move them to Hood River. And that throws off all of our stuff.
It still seems like there's a little bit to work with a mediator in good faith. And 16 months is nothing to scoff at, right? Cause you could like drag it all the way out to the end date of the first one unless they, re-up?
I mean, I think to your point, Mike, it is a lot about relationships.
Yes.
And right now, it doesn't feel like this relationship feels very good from our perspective. And to your point, we feel like we have been good partners and we recognize that there were areas in which there could be improvements made, with recreation programming and that sort of thing. And we are all about trying to continue to work on process improvements and all of that sort of thing. But I guess I would say that the relationship with the school district and it does, and the intention behind rec programming, I mean, I think it matters.
I'd say the relationship with the school district, but also the relationship with all of these individual sports teams, and that's hard to unring that towel. Like, we've got all of these groups that are liking the new process and want to move toward that. I'm not sure that they all understand how much work it's going to be for them if they're running their own registration and if they're doing all this stuff. But if we go in there and we get this all pulled back for the next 16 months, then I think we're alienating those groups as well. And the school district, we're trying to work with them to try and get something where we can still get a foothold in here, because they do have all the facilities and we might get 16 months, but then I don't.
I
They
agree.
can also cancel the IGA. I mean, either one of us can back out of the IGA.
At any time with 30 days, 60
Yeah,
days?
something like that, yeah.
Okay, but the first question on the previous page was, do you guys want recreation back? So we're going back and forth, what are we playing for in the long run? Because we have a good relationship until it's dead.
Mhm.
Or we are fighting for something that we believe in, that we have, a reason to say we are the best option, we are the most structured, and we want to see what that looks like. With the potential of a new 5-year IGA, which is a little bit more ironclad than the last. And what people will remember is tomorrow, not yesterday. I mean,
So what do you want from the board? What do you want and need? I feel like we discussed this last month and then Nan and Martha wrote letters and that
Mhm.
really moved things, helped things. What do you need from us?
I think that what we need to do is we need to spend the next week, getting the answers to a lot of these questions here, and we'll try and do that with staff. And figure out how this goes. We do have a couple of school board meetings that will be coming up with this policy. There's also some questions here where I need to, we're getting these questions to the school district on this draft policy to get some feedback. And if we have some issues where this is, these things aren't resolved, we're not getting what we need, and this is setting us back further, then I think we'll reach out to the board and let you know. If we can't work this out with staff.
Yeah, I mean,
Go for
I
it.
think that, I do think that your comments may have had a big impact. And I guess what I would say is, if you run into a school board member or, somebody, I mean, don't be scared to ask questions about it, and I think that we will be getting hopefully some answers. And I think it's about trying to improve relationships and get like a little bit better understanding about like what their priorities are and maybe like what, cause I think that right now it's like, why is all of this? I totally understand that like budget and all of that sort of thing, but it feels like there has been like a big relationship issue, and getting to the why of it, I think isn't.
So when I read this current one, I almost feel like it looks like there's some sort of confusion or oversight on their part because of what Mark just highlighted, like it makes no sense that number 5 would be separated out from number 4. If anything, those would just be together, which I think was already said in this discussion. But also like related to that, how about we send back, okay, we got your most recent policy proposal. Here's how we think it should look, because I think when we do this back and forth and say like, well, we don't like this, or we don't like this, or we don't like this, then we have to wait for their response rather than, here's what we think it should be. And they probably won't take it like that, but there's more of a chance they're gonna take it like that than if we don't give it to them.
We are doing that.
Okay.
Yeah, so Bill and I communicated this morning and he said, go ahead and put it in a separate document
Nice.
and send it to me. So the part of this is all happening in real time right here. You can, on the other one, you can see the deadline for submitting facilities was today. That 8 hours that they spent together was today in this room. So I think the two of you are probably going on about 12 hours in this room today. It's a nice room, but thank you for because it cooled down and I'm feeling a little bit better now. I thought it was more the conversation that was getting me hot. But we are, all these wounds are fresh and we're telling you what it's like right now and kind of the feeling around here and what we're all dealing with right now. A lot of the stuff we are trying to work out between staff and such, but we only meet once a month and this is our opportunity. And it just happened that Gio was writing this report right after, spending all the time putting these things together. And so, it's all kind of fresh in our heads and everything. So I appreciate the support and the comments. And at this point, we just, want you guys to have awareness of the situation, what we're dealing with right now. And when we need more from you, in the future, and if we need more, we'll be reaching out, with, some sort of kind of an action sort of thing. I'll be giving you guys a call and such.
But right now, we can hope at least leave this meeting without trying to be too negative, that maybe if, Bill sees the new, what you guys draft up for him and he sees that, yeah, okay,
Right.
that's reasonable, well, yeah, fine, that's
I
fine.
mean,
It's
And
possible.
I
It
think
goes smooth.
already an improvement from last
Yeah,
month.
exactly.
So
Right.
with that being said, we have to recognize that and be appreciative of that, for sure.
Can I just, when on their reply to the letter that I wrote, it said, many of the groups that will be scheduling with us, we're already only using Parks and Rec for scheduling services, yet we're registering youth on their own through their organizations. What does that mean?
Good
I don't think
question.
it's true.
I don't,
Every single one of our contractors, we were doing the registration.
Well, and this is why I've been quiet, because I'm trying to take in everything
Yeah,
and understand
Yeah.
why the relationship is. I honestly just feel that it's preferential, that it's. You're white and you can go and give your really long speech of how, Parks and Rec is not functioning and they need help because their bond failed. And I think that's just what it is. I wanna understand what they mean when it says, yeah, we're registering youth on their own through their organizations, which organizations?
Little League does their own
but
registration.
they don't-
That's, they're probably bringing
Yeah.
you soccer, lacrosse. and
Either
football.
the board is confused
Yeah,
as to what their
The board.
policy
replied back?
changes that they're
The
doing.
board replied. back?
Orinda Hayes
Yeah.
did.
okay,
That's
yeah,
not,
so
that's not right.
that's not true. Every contractor,
Well, yeah, but I wanted to.
And so I guess my response to Corinda is that is it equitable to have any family, regardless of whether you're white or Latino, to have 10 different registration sites to go to? Wouldn't it be better to have a one-stop shop for functionality and purpose. And I think to the school districts thing, they're saying, well, now you can register, register for facilities through us. But they're taking out like the whole,
Yeah, I
Right,
understand
right,
what you're
right.
saying, but I think they have erroneous
Yeah, they do.
information.
Yeah.
And just to clarify.
And that's, they made their decision, their policy change that they wanna do based on that erroneous information.
Correct, yeah, and if you could forward that to me too, I would like that, in fact, and CC Marcia, because I'll get a text.
And out of curiosity, do any of these subcontracted clubs or these other clubs, do they do any of the translation? Do they do any reach out in bilingual? Do you, anyone know?
I don't know, I
Is
just
that-
go
yeah.
through the Parks and
Or do
Rec.
they, or do they just send them to
You mean
everyone?
like independent contractors that
Yeah,
work with us?
No, I'm talking about,
Like
well,
clubs?
yeah, sure, yeah, like,
So independent contractors, we do the registration for
Yeah,
them,
right.
like lacrosse,
Yeah.
and we
like
do
any
all the
kind of
customer
Spanish
service.
speaker.
But like Westside Metro's like,
Yeah.
different club that's on the drop down
Yeah.
menu, they do their own registration, they do their own customer service.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they don't go through us.
They're not, the ones that go.
But they
through you
reserve
guys.
facilities through the school district.
Gio and
Yeah.
Jaime have already received calls about 3 through 8 soccer, Columbia Gorge Youth Soccer.
I know.
About how to register
For the ball.
from Spanish speaking
Yeah.
families. And
That's how we found.
Yeah, and that's what I
Right.
wanted to add, like,
Yeah,
you guys
that's
are talking
fine.
about relationships with the school district, relationship with. We build these relationships with customers as well, like Spanish speaking families, they come here. And they feel comfortable coming and talking to me and saying, hey, can you register my kid? Hey, Gio.
Right, I
We
mean-
built these relationships with them in the past 3 years.
and so
They
like,
keep calling, they say, oh, really, they were
Well,
really bummed
me
to be like, I can't. send
And
your
I
kid."
mean, I guess just to put it bluntly, like, for some people, it is not a big deal to go to 10 different sites to
Yeah.
register on a laptop computer
Yeah.
that you might be privileged enough to have.
Yeah.
But for Spanish speaking families who may or may not have all of those things, who also have like the languages barrier, maybe, like, and plenty of,
Cash,
cash
card,
versus
yeah,
card
payment.
versus those sorts of things. There's just so many different barriers, and having a place to go in-house to talk to people who can help you is, talk about government and ease of use and functionality. It is a reason why I think this relationship is important and why we should exist and be helpful in that recreation program.
I think that's why we should have a priority. I'm supportive of all the club sports. I think it's all great that it's out there, but I think priority wise, what we're doing seems the higher priority for equitability and.
Well, that, and
And-
it just seems very. My English, like I may speak it with no accent, but it kind of sucks. But I feel that, they handed us a program that really offered so much to the community and it wasn't working. They weren't managing it properly. And that's why they handed it to somebody else, hoping that it would work. And now they're completely tearing apart something that they built. That the whole part of it was by them.
We're referring to community ed, but
Yeah,
just making sure.
We did have a request from the soccer association that's not partnering with us to partner on a couple things, and they wanted to have us do marketing and outreach for them. And also to be able to have their customers come in to our office to get customer service support for registering through their software. I don't think we can support someone else's software, and also we don't have access to their software. It was going to be, they said
we're not.
that they wanted Geo to.
Yeah,
you-
hire.
Show them how to do it.
To sit down and show them how
Yeah.
to do it on their phone.
Yeah.
And the other thing is when it comes to outreach and marketing, I don't think that we want to be putting our logo on stuff, sending it out there and marketing somebody else's program. When we're not in charge of reserving the fields, we're not in charge of taking the registration, we're not in charge of holding their money. I mean, they're gonna, if they get burned by something, they wanna get a refund, it's gonna be Parks and Rec's not giving me my money back or whatever, we don't control any of it. And so it's, the request for, saying like, well, we still want to partner with you. Is like, we can't really do much with that. And that's the other, they're not going to pay us what we were making before to do that. So now we're spending a lot of time. Making a lot less money and we don't have any control over any of it. So, we haven't gotten back to them on that. They already went live with their registration, but it just doesn't seem like something that we can do.
Well, there's different perspectives, in the community, in terms of values, in terms of other.
Well,
Like, there's,
you're right.
What we're seeing is different values, like to some groups, it must not be important to have that access.
Well, what's that
No,
threshold
right.
for?
Ability to everything.
Yeah, when
Yeah,
you're
it
able,
doesn't
when you're
affect you.
able to do it, that's no big
Yeah.
deal because you have
Yeah.
time, you have resources, you know how to use the internet well. It's not a big deal when you're privileged, you know, I
A
mean,
lack of understanding that might be a barrier.
right.
Like, if you have no experience with
The barrier.
the barrier yourself or
Right.
with people you know that have the barrier, you just may not even understand that barrier is something that still exists.
Sure.
I find that hard to believe right nowadays, but.
I mean, I agree. I mean, I do think that there is literally a lack of awareness that about how it could be a barrier to have 10 different registration sites. I mean, I think to their point, they're like, it's already disjointed a little bit because it is, right? Because, you know, like baseball has always been on its own. And, you know, if you sign up for swim team, you're doing it through swim team's platform. I mean, you know, so like there are different platforms. I mean, so like
But our goal has always been to be moving everyone toward.
towards,
You know,
towards like,
a group,
mhm.
which we were looking at new software programs, and that's in our budget this year to get a new software program. That's, other people can use, it's easier.
And I look at our goals as well in that same regard, but to the macro scale of this. It's not today, but it may be coming soon, is that discussion of maybe the expansion that we've been taking on and are trying to provide is not where the community wants us to go, and we are about to contract again.
Uh-huh.
We asked for a lot and they said, do less.
Yep.
And this was focused on this building right here when it started. And I can't fathom a Parks and Recreation name without the recreation, but don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
If this takes hold, we have to talk about a threshold of which we go, great, it's on y'all now.
I agree.
Because we need to focus on our own and at least get off of our heels and be stable again, especially given everything else we're talking about. Gio's still here with us. Thank you so much. Holy moly, look where this went. This is a big deal, but it also, we might be without the cards very, very soon.
That's being very realistic.
But thank you for all the hard work on it. As
Yeah,
we're,
I appreciate you.
yeah,
all very much.
I feel like I'm in the know as much as I can be.
Yeah, I value my job. I love my job.
And we love Geo.
So,
And Jaime, we've got a great team here, and we have worked very hard to like, I think that these guys have put us in a great spot in the 3 years that we've been running this so far. And we're just getting started, and it's just like right now, it's,
Well, it's about building community and that's what they've done.
Yeah.
They are good organizers in their own way.
yeah.
So hopefully, I mean, so the other thing is if you have innovative thoughts, I mean, because, you know, right now it's about like how to make recreation programming sustainable. Financially, you know, is that going to be a possibility? So I think that some of it is, I mean, we're basically gonna have to, for right now, rebuild a different model, right? For how to be sustainable. So I think I'm all open to ideas, thinking outside of the box about, you know, and I'm not necessarily sure that the à la carte menu is necessarily gonna be sustainable, especially if it's like without things like registration or key kind of money-making items, you know, but perhaps we could do packages that could incentivize people, and perhaps we could branch out in thinking about like, what could we do in-house that could bring in a substantial amount of revenue, you know, so it's just,
I think it's important to say though, like in Geo's earlier report, there was some really cool community service stuff. We talked earlier about why Jaime is not here this evening, is he is out there
Yeah.
at the Golden Eagle right now. That is a free program that is completely subsidized by these other things that we do. This Zoe Tang's chess clinic that we did was a free program that we were offering the community, bring it in and such. There's, you know, there's a lot of different things here that have been really popular with the community that we're doing just to try and be out there in the community, giving back, and also, you know, as a kind of a marketing opportunity and all these different things. But if our staff time is now spent just trying to chase revenue and everything, those are what the decisions are gonna start getting made of, okay, that you're gonna put 20 hours into putting on that thing. We can't do that. We gotta go do this instead. And so that's where, there's a lot of different things that I think that we're doing that are really great for the community that when our decision making is shifted now, those things are probably going to be the ones that have to go away. So.
Out of curiosity, how, oh, sorry. Oh, no.
Sorry to move on.
No, I was just trying to question, like, how realistic would it be for us to go kind of back to the classroom option where you actually offer, I mean, I guess the community, as a community college, kind of taking that over, I mean, where you could take a class on mushrooming or taking a class on knife sharpening, like, those are all classes I remember taking when I first moved to the Gorge Student Community Ed.
Yeah,
Is there a means of doing that and have these guys help organize the classrooms and that aspect of things and just back off the sports?
we can talk to the college. That's the
Yeah.
other thing that we don't have the facilities.
Right, well, no, I know you'd still need the
Yeah.
classroom space.
Yeah.
But I'm saying the schools might be more open to giving you classroom space than having to fight all these clubs over field space.
They
I mean-
did have a price for the classroom space too. We still do have a little bit of a stay on that price and they won't commit to health. That they've said that they won't do it for, I think, pretty much until for the next year. But then they will reassess it.
Well, I wonder if it was for a community, for adult learning or even kid
But-
learning, if they would give her
So
better
when,
rates.
when community education was, when they quit doing it, they actually did kind of split it up to where we didn't take on everything community ed did.
Yeah.
Community ed used to do, things like driver's ed, that went somewhere else, but the adult programming all went to the community college.
Right,
And we could always talk to them about whether or not they want to continue doing that, or we take it on. But when it went, originally, adult sports went there too,
right,
and they did reach out and said, we don't have any facilities.
yeah.
And adult sports isn't really our thing. Would you guys mind taking it? And that's why we took on adult sports, but they did keep all of the adult programming.
Yeah.
And I don't know how much they're doing there,
Sorry,
but there could be some
Yeah.
opportunities there.
make you stay.
And we could, we could reach out to the college too, if they were able to give us the space, that
Yeah.
might be something too.
Okay,
We
Thanks,
know,
Mark.
we knew a general cost to build some fields and some artificial turf on West Side, but just grading an area and no irrigation or the like, 20 acres, what is the cost of that just to have that open space that even if we didn't have all the operational dollars, Geo and Jaime and the like could still say, cool, parse it out and chalk some lines and do whatever you need. What does it take to get 20 acres of West Side
Mhm.
completely leveled and this is now permitted to at least have somebody stand on it?
I can't give you a direct answer on that, but what I can say is there's a lot more to it than just grading fields, because it's a scenic area, permit that we would have to get, and there's all sorts of things between parking, stormwater and things like that, and then intersection improvements to the Fairview and Belmont where it curves right there, and different things like that, that are all in the millions of dollars that will add up.
And all of that would have to
Millions?
happen before.
Yeah, but they won't just let us grade a field. If we are saying now we're doing this and we're inviting a whole bunch of people here and we're going to do this stuff, they're going to make it, like, we're gonna have to have parking, the intersection is gonna have to be fixed.
We're going to have to master plan it too.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff
Public
there,
input.
and so it's not even the options that we had there, I think were non-turf options, when we did it, and in 2021, it was $7 million. But that had bathrooms and,
Yeah, I mean, it had
a little bit, I
everything.
mean, I think we could probably pare that down, but it would not be $500,000.
And it wouldn't be
It's-
20
it's
acres
multiple.
because of wetland and
Yeah.
setbacks and,
Yeah, we could maybe get 5 acres out of it and it'd be several $1 million.
Well, we might be getting a park and park too.
We might, that would be the easier one.
Cause I mean, yeah, I mean, I think it'd be a dream situation where we'll combine the pool bond with a bond that actually also gives us some sports facilities and fields.
That's
That
what
we
we
could-
tried
That
already.
no, I know, but I mean, if, I mean, that we could do tournaments on and make revenue on, and I mean, there's so many good reasons to have a lot of field space for that stuff.
The only way that like tournament stuff would really work with the West Side is if you did it at the same, with the high school as well.
for this west side.
With West Side School,
Yeah.
yeah. We, like, there's nothing that will be big enough for that,
Parking and all that.
like, yeah.
Are we utilizing the YE space that we remodeled last year for baseball,
Yeah,
softball?
women's softball,
Yeah,
yeah,
is that the only thing we use it for right now?
yeah, yeah. Baseball, men's baseball tried and they didn't like it.
They don't like it because they can't drink.
No, but was there a different reason? they don't-
Well, they don't drink
No,
in our
it's-
program.
It's not, big enough.
Big
either.
enough.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, 'cause it
It's
was,
not the,
it was during soccer season.
it's
too,
not the co-ed stuff.
so They didn't like it,
Okay.
so it's just women's softball right now.
Uh-huh. Well, I feel like we've talked about this topic for quite a
We
while, and there's a limited amount we can do right
Yeah.
now. To me, it seems like the school board policy is gonna then lead to whatever the next discussion is.
Hmm.
Okay.
Gio, you now have the record for the longest recreation report.
You.
I always compete.
You've been in this room enough hours for the day. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you guys. Thanks for listening.
All right.
Thank you for
Thank
coming
you, Gio.
on
Yeah.
today, Gio.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you for your
Thanks
work.
for all your help. All right, have a good night.
Bye.
Oh, man, I could skip ahead. 'cause we did have a-
And all this while Heine was up at Golden Eagle having a good old time.
Uh-huh.
You want it?
Well, I'll get
You got it. Took me 5 minutes, I was in and I was out, you gotta do better next time, Jaime.
There you go. You take this one.
I don't know, Mike, we have some stuff up here on the slide, do you, what do you, and most everybody was.
Everybody can see it.
At the advisory council,
Hmm.
meeting on June 9th, and got to talk to the consultants. First of all, what were your thoughts and reactions? How about, let's start with that. Any takeaways from that meeting?
My takeaway was we needed item 9 on the
Yeah.
agenda
Yeah, and I
for
sent-
today,
Yeah, and I sent the same email.
so.
We just I think we need to have a little more
Mhm.
clarity on what our limitations are and what we're open to, so that everyone's not wasting their time.
Mhm, mhm.
And,
I mean, so it gave some good feedback about like marching orders for the board, right? So, talking about that, long-term planning and strategy, right? Of things that we need to identify to bring back to the advisory council. Some things like pool location and, kind of limited.
Can we have like a printout of like, I thought we did have like a little, layout of how much of the pool, just the pool is gonna cost and then the West Side Field. Cause that was one thing that I kept hearing that they didn't know, and it was out there,
The spreadsheet.
yeah,
From during the election.
on everything.
Yeah, I mean, in Coco, I'm sure
And
she
the-
had seen that.
And the, kind of also was it Laura? What was her name? The lady that was here? the other-
and,
Linda.
Yeah.
Some of the stuff that she was just mentioning that I feel like the information was out there.
It's been shared, yeah.
Yeah, about the Parkdale Park. Cause it had it on there that we would,
Yeah, it was on that.
that we would
Articles
purchase
in the
Parkdale
newspaper
Park.
about it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I did, I actually wrote down, one takeaway I took from hers was, it would be nice, sometimes you'll see like a project page for things that you're working on under planning, so like, if you go to the city's website right now. And you click on project, you can see the May Street raised sidewalk right there and read all about what they're doing at that intersection and the construction update.
Yeah.
And that they're working with ODOT, and I thought, boy, that would be nice to have like a project page that then just kind of tells people. Hey, this is something we're working on, we have an option on this, we did, cause we put the news out there, and I think that we did a really good job of getting all the word out there, but like if we had like a landing site, so I think that is, that's a good one there.
that'd be pretty nice, I think, so you can even have the few fields you guys have, explain what, where they're at, like to a degree, like just a very brief explanation, like.
West Side.
West Side
We
Field
can't,
and.
we won't develop it because we can't maintain
But
it.
just to answer a lot of these questions, I think that would be helpful.
I mean, and West Side
Without being
Park
discouraged.
does have a page and it does state that.
Mhm.
And it does kind of give some of the information about it. To her point, we don't have a landing page or a project page for Parkdale Park. It has, like, if you probably scroll back in our news and noteworthy, it's probably listed as like a, blog post about,
News you can use.
Yeah, that sort of thing. But I too think it's a good feedback. And so the other thing for the advisory council and the pool option study, that's on our list of things to do is to kind of give the pool option study a little bit of a focus moving forward
Uh-huh.
so that the public has this page to go to find out project information, right? What's going on with the study. Then the second thing would be, hey, we have, and we do have the advisory council page, but start giving more updates about like what happened at our most recent advisory council meeting, the topics covered, that sort of thing, so that it is an easy place for people to walk on. And I do view, like, just find information, and I do like the idea of a project page, so. Just figuring out ways to increase that. Did you have any other thoughts or, takeaways from the advisory council meeting?
I'm curious how much that the company got. Did they get anything useful out of that all, out of our, have you guys talked to them? Like, did they get anything that they're actually gonna work with? Cause I mean, it was all pretty blanket statements like, yeah, we want transparency. And that's what they're telling these guys, what we want. It's like, yeah, we're doing that. Well, that's a goal. But like, as far as tangible stuff, did you guys get any feedback from them?
I think the value that they got was they understand a little bit more about like where they need to go with public education
Yeah,
and with everything. If this is our group that
This is what we're
in
working
the
with.
know, like that there's some gaps in understanding of what's going on. So I think that is kind of what that gave them just a good window into like what sort of things that they need to focus on for their first community meeting.
Yeah.
And where to go with that. But I think that they definitely thought it was worth their time. They're glad that they came out, that they complimented on the passion of the group, and that the group seems to be really wanting this, and they said, we're in a really good spot when we've got a group like that, and I think that it's just about giving some focus with it. One question or comment kind of on this is, this is a good kind of list of things right here, but we all of the board was at that meeting, so that is nice that they don't have to have that feedback. But this, I think I have heard the advisory committee a couple times say that they would like to see the reports that go to this board when we're sharing what happened there in at the advisory committee meetings. And so just if that whatever discussion points or a report that we put in, that we make sure that we get that back to the advisory committee. And that's something maybe we could create an advisory committee website or something like that's kind of an internal site that we can post these notes on that they can see or something like that.
So you
Yeah.
mean like this slide that they want?
Or
to see
like,
the slide, what do you?
Well,
I think you're talking, is it like you're talking about like, even though like meeting minutes
Yeah.
and like a recap?
a recap, what they said was, the whole point was the advisory council is supposed to meet 2 weeks before the board, so that we can bring what the advisory council said to the board and present it to the board. And the advisory council has said, we would like to see what you guys are saying, we've said. And so
Yeah.
just making sure that we get that back to, like, that we have a format for that report, and we get that back to a spot where the advisory council can see that. And we can share it back with them. That's what I've heard. I don't know if anyone
you're
else.
correct.
Okay.
That was my remark of, you can also attend the board meetings and be a part of that, trying to be respectful in that regard. But that was because there were
Right.
so many questions going around of, I didn't know this.
I mean, so I guess what I'm hearing is that it would probably be good to beef up our advisory council page that kind of gives like a landing spot of like maybe perhaps a meeting recap. And that could be done in document form so that like it's like it's like either like a meeting minutes. We don't necessarily have to do meeting minutes like the formalized
Yeah.
way.
I think Kelsey took him at the first meeting, but we didn't even share him at the second one because we originally, I think in the charter, everyone even said that we weren't doing a formal meeting minutes and all of that.
Right, but
But then they did ask for this.
right, but so like, I think having like a recap of what,
quorum, so I have to, right?
We weren't voting
well,
last
no
time. We weren't voting.
decisions were made at the advisory council meeting on behalf of the board.
Yeah, I guess we don't have to approve them, but I think you're right, like, we do need to have a record of the meeting.
Right, So those are things that we'll be working on. A more robust thing. The other thing that I think our group talked about, and I don't know how everyone felt, it still feels like there were a lot of just we had originally talked about like, should we do like Robert's Rules of Order about just like capturing people's opinions or that sort of thing. And so I guess maybe getting a little feedback from you all about how you thought the feedback went in terms of making sure that everybody's voices were heard.
Do we need to have a facilitator that starts calling on people?
Yes.
Instead of just letting people talk whenever?
Yeah,
Yes.
I felt like,
And an agenda, I mean, I'm sure, I think they had one, but.
Yeah.
They kind of.
It was
in a
loosely
different
followed.
way.
they were not.
Because, I mean, to refocus, I don't mind hearing, the criticism that, you know, about the ballot. I think it's great, cause that's what you need to move forward in a better way. But I think I felt like most of that meeting, that's what that was, is like everything that we did wrong.
The first meeting was very similar.
Oh, was it?
It was flipping on itself to, instead of the advisory council being beholden to the board, it's the other way around, and we are there to answer all of their questions that they don't know. And Integris, in many cases, did not facilitate that meeting the way that I was anticipating, but I get it, it was a blank slate, and that's what they were pulling information from, that makes more sense. But I felt like, man, this is just like the first meeting again,
Okay,
and we're just here to be cross-referenced and grilled in whatever way people wanna ask. And I don't think that that's gonna be productive for a third or subsequent meetings.
yeah, I sure hope it doesn't go like that again.
I didn't find it I didn't find it as negative as you guys are saying. But I will say, I think the biggest issue is we just didn't have enough limitations set ahead of time.
Right.
So I think that's where we got lost in the weeds, is just don't want, we're talking about building a pool and all these little different locations, the ideas, but if those aren't even on the board, then we're wasting, that's the part that I.
So then the suggestion is that we have an agenda that we're requesting that we stick to the agenda, right? So it gives us our goalposts, right? And that maybe we do have a parking lot, so to speak, so for like future agenda item questions, so like at every meeting, like when they kind of get off topic, we're gonna put that in the parking lot, so to speak, so that we know that we have to have that come back
to that.
to,
with the
for like,
responses.
for a few, like either via email communication with answers, or that it'll be brought up, be taken to the next meeting. I mean, does that feel like it would provide a little more structure?
And reserve some time
Make them
at the
efficient.
end,
Mhm.
reserve some time like for that parking lot.
Okay,
The negativity wasn't too bothersome to me. I mean, except that like, well, we've heard this all before, like it wasn't super productive because none of it was new information, but they don't necessarily know that.
Mhm.
But what did kind of bother me was that I felt like several people were not speaking up, and I worry that that's because they did not feel comfortable speaking up. And that if we have more of an active facilitator, we will more equally hear from everyone.
okay. And so I mean, and so I don't know, I mean, I guess Michael and I can, maybe we'll take turns, Mike. I don't know what you
Good
think.
cop, bad cop.
Yeah. Which
That's
one
what
are
it's gonna
you-
turn
which one are
into, in essence, if whoever's facilitating with that group,
Yeah.
they're gonna have to, it's not gonna be easy.
So there's a couple of ideas here. We can either have it be a staff person, a board member, or we could try and see if we could find like a third party.
I think you need to find a third party.
Okay.
I mean, I would recommend a third party, but I feel like I could.
I don't try to, I
Yeah,
try not to give like my opinion, cause I am a board member and, you know, I have my opinions of some things.
yeah.
But I mean, I live in Parkdale, and if you're telling me
Mhm.
everybody in Parkdale didn't want a pool, I mean, that's not inaccurate information, cause I live in Parkdale and I want a pool and my neighbor wanted the pool,
Yeah.
so that's what so.
And as soon as she moves somebody along from that,
Yeah.
the framing is the board member's not hearing the public anymore, and I'm the advisory council, and she. Facilitator or not, that's, unacceptable, and I can see it getting there pretty quickly if we don't have a third party potentially doing that, but. If
I
that's what
just
Marcy and I
like-
signed up for, then that's what it is.
Right,
Well, let's see if we can find someone, cause I'm just thinking like, if it's one of us that's doing it, it can be perceived as we're leading them in a certain direction, or we're cutting somebody off from that, but if we can bring in somebody that's does not know all the issues, and they're more just making sure everybody is having a chance to speak, and that we stay on agenda, and they're doing parking lot stuff and everything, that might be, make it more productive and a little bit more transparent and.
I guess I'm just not sure that it's gonna be that difficult to facilitate. I
No.
mean, I think that if we go in, and I think at our next meeting, we need to go over the charter, because the charter, we talked about the charter at the first meeting. There were some suggestions, go back and revisit that and talk about kind of, because the charter is there to basically help establish the rules and the expectations. So like the next meeting, I think, should just go forward being like, we feel like we've gotten a good idea of everybody's where people stand, right? Hopefully, moving forward, there will be plenty of opportunity to have questions, but now we're gonna keep it bound by like the agenda, right? And as you have questions that are outside of that structure, let's put it here and let's see if we can address it at the end of the meeting. Or if we need to have like a separate, have it be put on the next agenda, we can do that. So then it's like still giving a structure, but allowing for people to still voice their thoughts.
But I thought the advisory was more like, well, these are the possibilities. And you guys need to help us decide which of these possibilities is gonna be feasible. Not whether I wanna build a pool in upper, lower, or. Like, everybody's gonna have ideas on where the pool should be built, but what is the reality of where can it be built, or is it gonna be built here? I felt like that was a question that we could have.
But that's where the agenda will go, and we can drive that to get those perspectives, but to Marcy's point, you can outline it as logically as you like, and I can see where that group is gonna take it. They are gonna go off the rails, and we are gonna do a lot of parking lot for the next agenda. And that can be a little bit rough in navigating or facilitating anything. If you're like, yes, we'll get to that, but right now we just need to know about these options. Well, no, I wanna talk about why you're not hearing me right now, and where I wanna put it, I want it in my backyard, I got plenty of space. And we're not talking about that right now, we need to stay on topic here, well, you're just not listening to me then.
I don't know, I don't agree, I don't think they'll be like that. I think there's there might be a couple, but I think the majority of that group is there to give positive feedback or give
I
feedback.
agree with that fully, but it only takes one or two individuals to derail the productivity and the efficiency of what we have scheduled monthly.
I agree, but if you guys have it laid out ahead of time, I think that they're gonna abide by that, and you can refer to that real fast, and I think everyone there is respectful enough to be able to look at that 1 to 4 agenda items and kind of bring them back.
And I guess my hope is that trust will begin to be built,
think so.
and questions will be answered.
Mhm.
You know, people will learn more about, board perspective, the board will learn about advisory council. So I mean, I do think the first few
Mhm.
4 or 5
Yeah.
meetings will be hard. I mean, and I don't think that it's meant to be easy, and I think that we're meant to
Yep.
hear tough things. So like in that regard, like I think it's good, and I guess like just. I think that it will get easier though,
Yeah.
if we have a little bit of structure, allow for the opportunity for people to. Let's put that, it's not necessarily related to what we're talking about, let's put it over here, let's come back to it. And see if we can address that, but not now, and I feel comfortable being that person, trying to keep it within the guardrails. I mean, I don't know that we have the money per se to like hire a consultant to like come in and be like a facilitator, because that's ultimately like what we need is like a professional facilitator, but
So is it Integris?
Integris,
Are they gonna be at the next meeting?
No.
no,
That was the only one they were down.
September.
So, but I mean, I think that this gives me some good ideas, and then in your strategic planning part of this meeting, you'll know, you'll be talking about some of the things that we need to kind of give the advisory council some focus on, right? I think this gives us some good plans moving forward, Mike, and we can.
It does, at that stage right now, does the board have direction that they wanna put on the next agenda? Because
So
that
Well,
will,
that's gonna be on item 9 here.
got,
Cause that's what we want to
Yeah,
talk about.
and I'll be taking,
With
I'll be taking notes on all of that, on the strategic planning.
But yeah, I would say narrow it down for each, like at least the next meeting, just whatever we get to on 9, like give them, I'd say just 3 or 4 big topics and nothing, and give everyone a good 15-20 minutes on each idea. And then, give each person a minute or so and then just,
Mhm. I mean, and I think the rule could be, if we're gonna go around the room and we're gonna ask that you not jump in, and we're gonna ask everybody to voice their opinion
Mhm.
about, the,
Yeah.
the things. Does that feel
Yeah,
like a good,
you
I
can
mean,
pass, but you can't
you-
go overtime.
right, right. That way it allows, at least it gives people the ability to, everybody the ability to have their voice heard.
seems reasonable to me. Good.
Okay.
Okay, foundation update.
Foundation upgrade.
I think this is pretty short.
We've been busy.
Yeah, we've been busy. We're adding a special meeting on Monday. Yeah, this next Monday, so an extra meeting, which we've had to do periodically. And that is because the timeline for the Indian Creek Trail project might be moved up, but we're also kind of in a waiting mode because the timeline is still undefined in terms of when the money would need to be raised. We're kind of in this like hurry up and wait situation. So we're just trying to make some more progress on some items, by having this extra meeting. Some of it has to do with kind of policies and procedures for how certain things are done. So like financial management, because it's a new organization, right? And, donor management. So who has access to donor records and how is that managed? So making sure that's, dialed in and, we're careful about that.
New board member selection process.
Board member select, yep, we have 3, I think, additional applicants. Yeah. And making progress on also communications for the Indian Creek Trail project, assuming that is going to move forward, kind of getting that worked out. So kind of just, all those things are in the works and we need more time to work on them. We've really made good progress to, I think I said this last time, but figuring out kind of our operational procedures, like how do we keep track of tasks and get them done, because every single person is volunteering their time and everyone has different skill sets and different familiarity with technology. And we've been making steady progress on that too. There's been some some friction, but it's really
We've
progressing.
made enormous progress.
Yes.
I mean, the amount of work that we have done has been a lot,
Yeah.
for sure. Which is really good. Yeah, and I mean, but literally, I think you said it earlier, I mean, we are literally building the ship as we are sailing it or plane, whatever, building the plane as we are flying it. I'm
I
really
miss
good at all
your
this.
idioms.
I know. I'm horrible at it. So yes, it's been a lesson in, oh yeah, we have to do that before we can do that, for sure.
Yeah, going through that also gives me a little lens of thinking about the recreation challenge and having different groups, each doing their own registration process and thinking about we're putting a lot of thought into who has access to the donor records, but we wouldn't have to be putting all that thought into it. And just, when you never know with different groups, how careful are they being or not being. So
And-
that's been a little eye-opening to think about as we are going through each of those things.
Right, and some powerhouses and great volunteers are really good at that, but if they step down because their kids have graduated, is it gonna continue to be the same that it once was, for sure?
Yeah.
There's an issue.
And we have, so one of the things is we're trying to have for each of our key tasks that we have a backup person for each one, to the point of if we have someone step down, that we have someone else that's okay, if this person is not present or cannot get to it, there's a backup person for those tasks.
I think that the only thing that I think I was looking for a little bit of feedback on, because we're part of Chrissy and I are in the communications committee for the foundation. And so the communications committee for the Indian Creek Trail project or Indian Creek property project is, working on just like the campaign plan of like crowdsourcing and fundraising. And so you know how like the library has like if you donate such and such, you get to have your brick. We don't want to do a boardwalk plank.
Well, not that we don't
Mark
want
is
to,
like,
we
why,
un-
thank you.
We
Uh,
understand the challenge
right.
and the
Right,
cost benefit.
right, but
that.
however, we are expecting to have donors, and we haven't decided the exact amount where like something might go up to recognize their donation. But we do expect to have some large scale donations for this project. And so one of the suggestions was to perhaps do like little placards that could go on, I don't
A
even know,
trail marker.
Just a
right, the,
Trail.
what do we call this?
a trail marker.
Trail marker, okay, yes. That could go on
They
this.
call it our obelisk is what it's
Right.
called in my signage
Right.
stuff for.
Because then that might be, something that would be less maintenance, it could be probably be,
Bones. Yeah.
be installed fairly easily. But we don't necessarily have that this might not be the method by which we want to go, but I guess it's just getting the board's feeling on how you feel about having recognition for fundraising for something like this.
So the idea would be, it would be at some dollar amount and above, so it wouldn't be everyone.
Like
who
likely
donates.
something like 5,000
Something
and
like
above.
that.
It's kind of an addendum or continuation to our bench policy in certain
Mhm.
senses.
Somewhat, I mean, it's pretty much a one-off, but it's
I mean, it
related.
depends upon if people wanna keep donating $20,000 a pop to the district for
Sure, I guess.
trinkets.
Yeah, I think it's fine to recognize. I think it's totally reasonable personally. I mean. I think as long as you have limitations on how much you put on it, as long as it's just their name and not even their amount, just their name, and then that's it.
But I think it needs to go through that waiting period, just like the bench policy and however we follow that, so it's not just, here's my money and I get what I want now.
Well, so to clarify, like, the reason this is being brought to you is that in coming up with the materials that would be shared out, if this goes live. The suggestion is that this is something that is shared with those materials for the benefactors, as the higher dollar people are called, that as recognition for their contribution, they would be named. We would probably leave it a little bit vague, but
Mhm.
recognized in some way on,
Right, what, I mean,
at the trail
Mhm,
site or
right.
something.
I mean, I think I think trail site seems like or property
Is this
site.
a decision we have to make now, or?
I think just giving us some direction on it, does this feel like we can write a policy and do some stuff like we did with the bench
Mhm.
later, but do we feel like, that this will be our property and our trail that we're putting in? Are we comfortable with selling, a plaque? Basically, the ability for someone to put their name on a plaque if they donate over a certain amount of money, and that
Or-
helps us buy the property.
Or something, I don't know, I mean, I think the language
Spelling.
is, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
Recognizing, it's
Recognize.
not like one-offs, it's not like, oh, you are buying this plaque, it's that if you are in this bucket
of money,
of money,
Then
right?
you-
then you will be recognized.
I mean, the children's park, we got 50 plaques from when everyone donated for that community build. And I mean, there's businesses, there's names, there's one that says like 3 Little Birds, because they were just anonymous, 3 people who donated X amount of money to things. It's like, I mean, I don't know, why would you not,
Well,
why would it be such a big deal to let them do that? I mean, as long as you don't let them put their business name or something, I mean, if you wanna just say. Something, if you wanna not advertise, a company, I get that, but if you wanna put your name on there because someone donated to get this for the community, I mean.
Yeah,
that's
I would
been
say that it's a recognition
donations.
of a certain amount of money and up,
And,
right?
and Children's Park, I think, has a lot of lessons on how not to do it as well.
Yeah. Well, the posts for sure.
But also like, you've got these little plaques up of every single little thing, so they're all over the place, it's very busy, and then they're all done in plastic, they can break off, like all these different things. And then, the Children's Park cost $450,000, and there was 3 different buckets of money.
Yeah.
150 from the city, 150 from the Parks District or SDCs, and 150 from the community.
Mhm.
And the Parks District has a small thing somewhere, and there's all these people that have like bigger, I mean, it's just, so there's lots of different
Yeah.
things where I would not do it the way the Children's Park
Yeah.
did it.
And if I remember correctly, which I think is maybe what I hope to avoid, is when I went to a community work day to help with the building of that project, there was, I think you were standing by it, Jace, here, you can get your old, name, like, I think.
Yeah, the old pickets.
The old pickets.
Yeah.
You know, for community members, and I think from a parks provider standpoint, what we don't want to do is be on the hook for somebody's recognition to be held in perpetuity.
Yeah.
You know, we want it to be that something that is easy for the Parks District to maintain and an easy place for them to recognize.
Yeah.
You know, that's all.
I
So
want
that
my
it-
brick back.
Yeah, I want my brick back, I want my placard back, which is nice.
Yeah.
But it makes it so that inevitably we might disappoint somebody,
Yeah.
right? That's all.
So what are we
So
deciding on?
Perhaps something that's like a plaque that's like, the following people were benefactors of this project. Donating 5,000 or more.
Right, but do we have to make this decision?
So I think the
There's a
decision we
foundation.
make is, do the four of you that are here tonight feel like this is the direction you want us to go in, that we can, announce that we will be putting, some sort of, a recognition up for high donors. on
Yeah,
this-
and
on-
we
on
don't
this-
have to
on
say
this-
what it is,
Yeah.
Right.
that,
Yes,
Mhm.
I think it's fine.
Okay, there.
I don't, but I
Yeah.
think. Do you,
I mean, I think we're twisting a few things, and it makes me wonder about thresholds, and this is a one-off right now for this thing. Maybe we're saying it's run through the foundation primarily, and they would oversee that, but to me, I just have more questions, and I'm okay with it. Cause aren't deciding on anything except to move forward and keep talking about it, but it's a slippery slope from what we just did, which is the bench policy.
Mhm.
Which is the semantics we're talking about here
Uh,
on what's buying this or donation for that, or who is where, and how we recognize, so. We actually hashed out the bench policy for a while, because we did not wanna litter things around. Town and around the trails and everything else, and this is for the Indian Creek. Property. But it will expand again, is what we're saying, and so I'm just trying to preview the future of what that expansion looks like.
Where is that plaque taken from?
That's just,
Screenshot.
Google, I mean,
Okay, so it's just a random plaque from Google Images?
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, I can blow it up, I don't think that. Yeah, I mean, it would not be anything like that, this is a different kind of. Of thing, but it gave you the idea of what it would look like. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I'm not trying to stand in the way of anything, I think we're all in agreement that fundraising is important and there's value to how we do it.
and some people like to be recognized.
Sure, and people want a bench, and we have a process for that, that
Mhm.
people can get a bench, and it's very similar, so. That's all I'm saying is, I'm glad that there's policy for it, and let's keep working on it and find a way to raise funds.
yeah, well, it sounds like what you're talking about can align with still moving forward right now, like, this is sounds like a green light to say like, yes, this general idea is okay. And
With-
define a policy over the next few months so that
Mhm.
there could be clarity moving forward, like if we are raising some money for a future pool building, that we have that policy already figured out and it can be applied to that as well.
So we don't have to put in
Exactly.
a swimming tile.
Lots of swimming tiles, the inlets, I want my name written on an inlet.
Your name painted on the concrete.
let's move on.
Yep.
Strategic planning, so this is what we were talking about, earlier, about having some sort of a, guidepost here. This is one of those kind of, those things where I was really hoping that, by not having many guideposts. I think it just opens up the conversation, to be able to say like, whatever crazy idea, 'cause sometimes those are the best ideas, but the flip side of that is when you don't have that, you go into, some of the crazy ideas that are maybe not as realistic and such. And so, yeah, I was having the thought after that meeting, it's like, oh boy, I feel like we need to have a little bit more defined on what they are here for. And what kind of the scope of what we're allowed to think about is here and what we're allowed to discuss, just so that we don't go off on tangents about multiple facilities and different locations and things like that, if that's what if the board does not feel like that's where we're going. So Jace and Christy had the same thought. I'm sure most people there had the same thought as well, but they had reached out and said, hey, can we put this on the agenda? I thought this is a good thing to talk about. So we kind of, Christy and I, when we were putting together the agenda, kind of broke it into a couple of different things of just providing guidance to the advisory council and defining the scope of the building. So scope could be the location of the building, and then also like what all would be going into the buildings, versus like, community center. We obviously don't have space if we're doing it on this site to do a gymnasium anymore, but there still could be community rooms. Would we have workout equipment? Office space is another thing. Right now, our district offices have always been in this building. They don't necessarily need to be, but if they're not, we would have to rent space somewhere else, but when we added community education, we had to build a new desk out front, and we've got our staff all over the place in different places, and office space just adds to the expense of it. And so how much office space do we need, and does it make sense for us to have it here or a different site? But just questions like that. So I thought that I would just start kind of with that. Maybe we'll start with location. We keep on having the question of, are the baseball fields completely out, or are they in? And then is it going to be in Hood River, or is it going to be somewhere else? I will just say like the reality of most of it points to this site right here that we're at, as far as cost. If we're trying to keep costs down, this is the cheapest spot for us to do it. And the trade-off is that we have to be closed for a year while we build it. And the other trade-off is we don't have a parking lot, like Brian Short was saying, and we only have the 1.3 acres around this spot without really room for expansion and such.
Yeah, sorry. So I knew that we worked with the city so hard about Collins and all that and the larger footprint and everything. But we also, in a sense, had already done some legwork with the school district, because we already talked about Double Mountain and moving tennis courts and all of that. Would the footprint be bigger, especially with the weird angle and this and that, if we took the parking lot currently and the failing tennis courts, and that's where we place the new pool? We move the old aquatic center to the new parking lot, and then we just move their tennis courts to Double Mountain. So it's a little bit bigger, but clearly the piping that runs under the ground is an issue. But that won't be an issue for parking lot, and we can build there while keeping this functional. All we have to do is get a new tennis court set over where we already got some level of approval with the district,
And
school
more
district.
parking.
And more parking, which will go when we tear down this pool, so people aren't walking far from the middle school.
But you need the more parking during the construction.
We have the church right there,
We don't have it yet, but yeah.
Yeah.
but the church, we already had at least a little bit of goodwill
And-
towards.
I mean, and so then what would you be saying to the city about, because would you think that they would say, okay, just take the land, or would you say, because right now the.
School district, the parking lot and the tennis courts of the school
No.
district.
The city.
Oh, well, we're providing them new updated tennis courts that aren't failing. We already talked about that with them, right?
Well, we would have to pay for that. So the land at Double Mountain is not free. We'd have to buy
Correct.
land at Double Mountain and so it will add.
You're right.
I think that's a great idea, and that's something that probably could, most of the pushback we got was because of the baseball field.
Right.
I think that makes sense. I think that it adds some complication, and it would probably add, we could crunch the numbers, but it'd probably be like $5-10 million, building. For example, when we built Golden Eagle Park, the most expensive, half of our budget, so our budget was around $1 million, about $500,000 of that was the parking lot.
Right.
There, parking is expensive, that will be, all of that, we're moving the utilities, doing that, and then building a new, buying the land and building new tennis courts.
Does that get us?
How's it a cost?
That's more square footage though?
A little bit, I would think, because part of the issue with our current aquatic center is we can't work that back green area the way that sewage is running underneath. So we can't dig
Got it.
down and do some of that. So this is as big as we get on the property we're on now.
Oh.
So that is slightly larger. I mean, you could just visually see
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
But also, you know that we would probably have the entirety of that space once graded. We won't have the entirety of this space, even if we tear it down and
Yeah.
wanna push out and pretend. But you're right with the cost. I mean, we have to figure out how to sell that, although we're going back to, we can build one while the other one's still operational. And we don't have to fight Collins Field any longer. We're not taking away, we're giving brand new tennis courts. We're expanding that.
Mhm.
And then, you know, we get pickleball on our side too somehow, and all of a sudden,
We just need big pickleball.
everything's magic, but it does still cost more. You're right, Mark.
So what might be a good direction, though, first we need to get a little more intel on whether that is even something that, like, the city would agree to, but hypothetically, both of those options could be brought to the advisory
Right,
council,
They could.
right? Like, okay, here are your two side options.
Yeah.
What do you
Yeah.
think? One costs more, but here are the
Yeah.
pros versus the cons.
Yeah,
Hash it out and let's capture what
Yeah.
that looks like.
yeah,
So I'm showing that whole area as owned by the city and they have it plotted out. They don't have the tennis courts as like an individual.
Tennis courts are 1.1 acres.
1.1.
Plus in the parking lot, which is the schools.
Yeah.
And I mean, in general,
Oops.
the city was on point with us, as Mark presented before, with Collins Field. I mean, that's what we asked them. Don't decide now, but will you get in our way later if people vote this way?
Well, it's a smaller, the tennis court, that's smaller than if it's 1.1.
No, but he was saying tennis courts plus the
The
school
parking
district parking lot
Exactly.
would be the site.
And
We
then
would
the
take
parking
that-
lot would move
And
the.
then the
Gotta
parking
be.
lot now where the pool is.
Uh-huh.
and then how are
And-
you gonna divvy up which part is the school district's parking lot and the swimming pool's parking lot?
We share now.
I know
I'm
we
sure we
share
can find a
now,
way.
but
We
they're
take
gonna-
care of it. I mean, yeah, that's all.
They're
We
gonna
figure-
want a land trade also, probably.
The school? I
Well,
mean,
yeah, they're gonna be losing.
It's all taxed. I mean, that's like, maybe
I'm just saying, like, people are gonna say this, right?
They probably will, and our response is the same thing that we said to the city, which is the taxpayer have already paid for it once, why make them
Yeah.
pay again? I mean, this was all originally city property and it was given to the school district at some point.
but also just bigger parking area.
Yeah.
If we turn this into parking, like think of the teachers being like, oh yeah, assemblies and after hours, like it'll be easier to park
Mhm.
right here. Like it's catty corner.
Yeah.
They don't have far to walk. It's pretty much the same thing, only we've consolidated and hopefully, I don't know. Just a thought that I saw because I like this.
Well,
layout.
I mean, I guess if you, plus the big thing is if you do manage to move the pool. And then if the baseball field ends up becoming something that's not as, you know, heightened and everyone's so intense about, it could be a room for expansion in the future and, you know.
Right.
And even if we don't use everything now, I think that if we built this same footprint in that larger area, we would have room there for expanding some community center room later, which is what we said we want to do. We want to build piece by piece.
Yeah.
What does the community need now, but what might they be interested in if we do a good job later? That footprint would be big enough and we'd just get goodwill from building new tennis courts and a new parking lot and everything else kind of fits there.
But yeah, it's a lot of money for sure. But yeah,
A worthwhile option to
it's a
talk
good thing to
about.
talk about. Yeah.
I had had the thought about the tennis courts, like, oh, let's suggest moving the tennis courts so we can get more parking. But I like,
Mhm.
I mean,
I
your
mean,
idea provides
it could be,
more options.
I guarantee you people will be like, the pool view will be gone. So that's just something.
About 1.7
Well, that's why we
acres.
bring it to the advisory council where we have a variety of
But
users.
Yeah, I mean, I think I mean, it very well could be a,
I mean, we could always
1.7.
do, we could always even do a little bit more, because you don't, you know, we might not have to.
To all parking.
well, I mean, I'm just like, is there a way that some of that area could be held over for a small community center at some point,
Right.
you know?
Well, and that's what Mark's doing right here is if we even gave them more parking, but used a portion of what we currently have here, 2 acres, 2.25 acres. That's bigger than Collins Field. Collins Field was what, 2.3?
We also though, like, don't know really how buildable the tennis court area is, do we? Because we already know, like, they're failing because of drainage. Is that gonna be a problem for?
It's all,
Going there.
it's all fixable. They could fix the tennis court drainage. It should, just would cost millions of dollars to do it. But that's, I mean, it's a good point. It's in a dip. There's a bunch of water down there. There's some hydrology stuff. Perfect place to put a pool. Yeah, but there's, it would be more money. Originally, I think it was Klein, Engineering came in, and told them about, they actually, I think I have the plan somewhere here, where it was them basically cutting up all of Collins Field and going across the property out to May Street out here to tie into a stormwater line in order to get drainage out there and some other things. So they were going to like basically dig down on the tennis courts, create these drain tiles, all this stuff, and then have to go down and run it across. And so it was, it's possible. It was just very expensive.
If I remember correctly too, Mark, at some point in our conversations with Leo, we had some sort of, Leo had put something similar to what Mike was suggesting, you know, like, he was just like, I did a test to fit. You know, I said, I have to get back and log.
I don't think so.
Previous.
Not in this location. Leo had a test to fit out on Morrison Park and some other things, but he,
I'd have to go back and look at some of the stuff.
yeah.
Okay, so for the first bullet point,
There you go.
Yeah.
are we at a consensus of defining this as 2 possible locations to choose from pending, you know, we need more information about this new second option?
Right.
I think that the thing to say would be like maybe what's off, like we've decided it's going to be in Hood River or like on the May Street campus in this spot. Like, so that we're saying like, we're not planning on putting it out by the high school or in Odell or.
So we're not going to say that we would be exploring that
Oh, yeah,
as the second option?
sure. I'm just saying like, let's narrow down like the things that we're not doing right now, like.
The two options being
Like
where we're at
if-
here or
Yeah.
this thing that we just came up.
And Mid Valley is not.
But I think if we say the things that are not, we have to list like so many things rather than saying, here
That's what
are.
they're saying. These are the
Yeah,
two.
we're,
The 2 is right where we're at right now,
Yeah,
the
that-
same location or the tennis court.
That's what I'm
So those
saying.
2 spots in one location.
But they're saying do the reverse, say this is out, this is out, this is out, this.
Yeah, okay, I guess there's 2 different ways to, I was just trying to say the things that were, you know, the what it is, the what it's not, but you're right, there's lots of different things that it could not be, so. I'm just, until we've really had a chance to vet. The tennis court
Yeah.
and all of that stuff, I don't know if I would wanna put it out there, I mean, that could be a thing that we talk to our consultants about and we just reach out to the city about, and we just ask the consultants for some really quick down and dirty. You know, what sort of things that they can think that would add to the cost before we bring that to the advisory.
I mean, but either way, if we're going in with what our options are, we know we're not going Mid-Valley, so we're either saying that we're building exactly right here, or we're floating that check a little bit and saying, should we dig in deeper with this other option? Because those are your options.
Without messing up the
Yeah.
baseball field.
Yeah.
Exactly, we know that that's not an option any longer, and if they go, well, but you could try, or also you could try at Mid-Valley. No, we can't, and we can't get into that. These are our options.
So, I mean, I think going back to like keeping it to looking at like keeping it on the Main Street campus,
Mhm.
possibly with.
The vicinity.
An
This- yeah.
expansion but
If,
if they go, no, don't ever do that, okay, then we don't need to look into that any further.
So the May Street campus, without saying anything about the tennis courts and school district parking lot, would be one, we'd be saying one option, and then at some point, if we get more information that the second option might be feasible, at that point, we would bring that.
Well, Mark is saying he doesn't wanna do that just yet.
I don't know, I'm just kind of floating, this will
Can we
take,
just say, there could possibly be another option, but
yeah, so well, I guess we can say we're looking into
we
it.
haven't confirmed that possibility, but it could be
Yeah.
this, so.
It doesn't have to be our only bullet point for strategic planning. It's just give us your initial thoughts on this.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we can take that back to the board. Here's what they thought, here's what they had to say about it. Because again, the only reason why it really came up to me is that Mark has already done the legwork with everybody here previously to figure out some of these components. And then you just look at it and you're like, oh, well, it's not a no. That's a good start.
Yeah.
So we're just asking, do people in the advisory council think that maybe it could be a yes? And if it could be, we dig in a little bit more.
But we have to say that we're not comfortable digging into, say, Mid Valley or Odell or Parkdale, right? We have to be clear on that, so
Yeah.
that's what we need to discuss right now.
Yes.
Nip
Because
that.
we gotta make sure that that's not an option, if
Yeah.
we all agree that it's not.
Yeah, there
Agreed.
probably should be, there are some things that are off the table, right?
Yes.
And I don't know how deeply we'll go into that, but the board's already talked about it ad nauseum in terms of cost and in terms of like being able to bring back revenue. I mean, for how many people you get through the door and all of that. So
I wasn't here for that, but I think I can read between the lines here. I mean, it definitely makes sense that this, I mean, what, 7,000, 8,000 of population is here in Hood River, right? Of our 10 or 11, 12,000. I mean, this is the majority of the people are here in the city.
It's partly population, but it's also things like walking distance to multiple
Yeah,
schools and such, because
exactly.
lot one's been floated a lot of times too.
Yeah.
And we've thought that lot one is more for the tourists and is not as much of a community center as it is here.
Yeah.
But lot one probably has more foot traffic and people around down there than this does here. If you're looking at just the dollars and cents of it, it's just who are we serving in our community?
right, and that's what we heard last time too, is
Total infrastructure needs.
Yeah.
Yeah, completely, yeah.
Yeah. out there.
And-
So I was thinking of the
The
philosophical side of
irrigation
it.
district alone,
the-
we need-
the dollars
we need
and
that
cents
water
of it.
stability to
Right,
break
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so for the first bullet point, then the guidance it will be on the May Street campus.
Mhm.
And one definite option is the current site of the aquatic center.
Yeah.
And that we may come back with other configurations to consider.
And for them to understand that that requires closing the pool for at least a year, possibly more. And also, you know, what that sacrifice would mean if you want to build on this spot. Well, it's the cheapest, but there's the most to sacrifice, it would probably be here.
But those
As far as-
points to some degree are irrelevant if we only have one site for them to choose.
Well, or moving it, because.
Yeah, if
yeah,
we are
leave that
out.
offering that other option to them.
I mean,
those are the cons of it.
I mean, I
like,
guess, you know, I mean, because time is ticking, I mean, and it is about like the relationships and. I mean, so does that mean that you all would like us to go talk to the city just about even, is this? Remotely.
I mean, I
For me,
think,
yes.
I think so. I don't,
I
Vote on
think
it?
maybe the architects first on just like a real quick gut
Okay.
check on how much money it would cost and so that we, I mean, if it's. Like, I think that they like,
Right.
if it's extremely expensive, I don't know,
Yeah.
maybe we need to know if the city would say yes first. City and school district, I mean, it's two different
Yeah.
groups.
Yeah,
it was just $1 million to level and parking lot this last time we talked about it, wasn't it? Just for this, because we're going back to some of those things too. We're taking a parking lot, we have to give a parking lot. But I think you were mentioning before that parking lots don't come cheap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's some of those other things that's where the costs add up that we have to explain.
Yeah.
Tearing down and building straight back up is not creating a parking lot again.
It's also assuming like the reason that we want to do this is probably because we can build a bigger center there and a bigger center is going to be more square footage and cost more money.
Mhm.
And so all of these decisions of moving it to this other location are making it a lot, like just,
Right.
they all add up.
Yeah.
And so it's adding to the price. The reason the last thing didn't pass was not Collinsfield, although that there were some people that was an issue for them, but it was mostly the price. And so trying to make sure that we're mindful of that.
Yeah.
Now, there was also a few other things that we had there, but it was a $72 million bond and 60 million of it was this facility.
Sure, but we're also have discussed the Lego modular kind of approach already, which
Yeah.
is we could get this to happen and still only build an aquatic center, knowing we have the space later to expand out afterward.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you could definitely like have a building or.
Yeah, and in which case we could also build this building and then turn the parking lot into, sorry, move a new gymnasium right here and take over the parking lot right here as phase two or something like that as well.
Yeah.
Uh,
Having some, it feels the possibility of having some flex space for future planning. Feels like it could be a win, but.
yeah,
Yeah, and if you're average, pitching it as flex space that we're not having to spend the money on yet, other than just, getting it ready for that potentially, that might soften the blow.
Maybe one day you'll want to.
Yeah.
Okay, so you will check with the architects, get a gut check on that and
Yeah.
then go from there.
And then possibly talk to the
Pitch the council.
city.
I mean, at this point, like, it's probably talking to staff members, if we bring it to city council and school board, it's gonna be real public.
Yeah.
And,
Right.
Yeah, it's still a big what if.
We're not ready for that.
yeah,
And I mean, maybe it's the conversation with staff is that, like, I mean, because I think the community will want input on something like this, and it's like, how far can we begin to ask the public? I mean, we have a meeting coming up soon, right?
Yeah.
Like, is it a possibility to ask questions to the public about something like this
Yeah.
to get feedback?
And that's where we start with advisory and with
Yeah, see from there.
the architects, and then we build on it. I mean, that was to Brian's point last advisory, like, holy moly. Get this news out there. Okay,
Yeah.
but this is the process to do it.
Yeah.
And then the second bullet point, define the scope. We can start asking, well, if we have a space because we took this option. What does that Lego building look like? What do we feel like? What comes next? What's stage 2?
Well, even
Well-
if we rebuild in the same spot, what do people prioritize? Like, I mean, obviously the pool's first and foremost, but then workout equipment? I mean, do we want a little mini YMCA here to make money on but then also manage? Do you wanna have or does people float like indoor tracks, like where people can walk in the winter time? What kind of things are we gonna pitch to, are we gonna be open to, even if we build in this exact same spot? Like, what are the priorities? That's the stuff that, are we comfortable with any of that stuff that the advisory brings up, I assume?
Well, I know that what we
Shutting
have to
anything down?
do is really. Everything we heard from the last bond and levy were, no, you brought too much and threw it all on the wall and nothing stuck. So I think that the phasing approach is where we kind of discussed, great, so we're going back to the bare bones of what we need. But what can we build upon moving forward? What will be our next priority after this? What is that structure gonna look like? And if people are clamoring for it, they're like, man, now we need that community room space, or we need that, the weight room or the, suspended track. Great, well, that's third on the list. That's fourth on the list after we get past this, just so people can see the progress you're doing and know what's coming next.
So I think I'm worried if we don't define the scope some for the advisory council, we're gonna be in the same boat as last meeting. Like, I would like to define the scope for them somewhat. And like the previous bullet point, like maybe have a few places for them to help give feedback. So like one idea, for instance, is to say, we as the board want to think that it needs to include, the facility needs to include these things. Is there anything essential we're missing? And so, for instance, like the things I would say is the aquatic center. A multi-purpose room of some sort, because this seems to be get so much use. And offices, those to me personally seem like those are like the baseline, of course, locker rooms too, like. Like, so that's what I would propose.
so you're
instead.
talking replacement with a slight enhancement on community space.
Slight enhancement, I mean, just maybe-
community, like, that's our baseline, but
Baseline, yeah.
But we are open to different, as long as we don't lose anything, like we have the same amount of lanes. We have the same amount, swim lanes and things.
Yeah.
That we are open to more pool things, but we're not necessarily open to a gymnasium and workout space and things like that.
Well, the language I personally said was
Okay.
to ask them, is there anything else that you think is essential?
Okay, yeah.
So, and then
you're
I
right.
think I do think that, perhaps it might be a good idea just to revisit some of the old study of just being like the site restrictions and what's what the last study kind of revealed might be possible in terms of like size. And some of that was you might be able to add in a couple of extra rooms, right? You know, that could include some flex space, but the likelihood of doing like mini YMCA on this site is not really possible. An indoor track, you could possibly do something that's above the pool, but then you're talking about astronomical costs, so it's really not. To me, that would be something that is functionally just off the table because of cost, right? So like, it might be useful just to like talk about it from that standpoint, you know, to be like, this is where we feel like our goalposts are in terms of like function and like the space that we could add on this site. Right?
So giving those bounds of saying like,
Yeah,
like,
like,
these are limits.
right.
These are limits because of the space.
Because of the actual footprint,
Mhm.
front space, I mean, like, we can go down into the ground, we do know that, you know, cause we're on a hill right now, you know, so. In the other plans, you know, this was all down in the pool, there was like lobby and space, and then the pool still was up on kind of a second level, right, but there's not a lot of extra give and take in terms of like the amount of extra space. There could be some like community flex room space or like gathering space, like an expanded lobby area. You know, might be something that, you know, in the other plans was something that was recognized as a possible need.
And just so you guys probably already discussed all this, a second floor obviously is not an option, plus I assume you also want the roofs to be able to, or some kind of a removable roof, like where are you, no, none of
That's
that.
not assumed.
So that's not assumed, okay.
Oh,
I-
an inside pool, right?
Well, not, that's
So we could-
defined.
Okay, so we could theoretically build on above a pool here and be.
Right, I mean,
And obviously that's expensive, I get it, I'm just.
Office space below the
I-
pool.
I mean, I definitely think that, getting feedback from the community, there are definitely strong
Mhm.
opinions about indoor versus outdoor, and I think that the obvious benefit to a tent and that we've had is that we can make it indoor, outdoor.
Yeah.
And so figuring out a way to work within those parameters without killing the pocketbook or functionality, you know, I mean.
Or
Yeah.
operational costs, I mean,
Yeah.
that's the other thing, and that's the thing I think that people don't really weigh is how much it costs to heat a tent.
Yeah.
And management costs on things like that, maintenance and things like that.
Did we say Integris was working on the community college's pool? Are they the ones doing that? Mount Hood Community College,
They're doing White Salmon's pool.
okay, for some reason I couldn't remember, I thought one of them had mentioned that they were working on that, but they,
Councilman Hudson.
Oh, there.
yeah, I thought that they just showed that they're putting some kind of retractable Safeco kind of.
They are on that, but it's,
Thought,
Yeah.
for some reason I thought when we went through all the architects, one of them said that they were working on,
Mhm.
I don't know,
That-
anyways.
From our proposals, I think.
yeah.
But then, I don't remember who it was.
So does anyone have a different suggestion on how to address the second bullet point, or do you? Like what I said, like, what do you guys think for the second bullet?
Yeah, I think that flex spacing, and I think what Marcy said too, I mean, if we move sites, you're losing the view of the mountain and indoor, outdoor kind
Do
of
we
thing.
have to
is-
mention that?
No,
I think we should just like say these are the spots that we could possibly build or that we can build, but not mention that.
I like the way Christie framed it though, here are the minimum requirements that the board has, pool, office, community space. Is there anything else you think is essential?
Or like community
Yes.
room?
Community room, yeah.
Yeah.
And then,
I agree.
allowing people to like, to say that other stuff there.
It
doesn't
comes
exactly-
from them.
Yeah,
not
and
from
and it
us.
doesn't completely give goalposts around like, this isn't going to be a gym, it's not gonna be, we allow them to have that conversation, but it just kind of lets them know, like, this is what we're building here.
This is what we gotta
We're not talking about.
Yeah.
Not doing this stuff, like, this is the minimum, we're doing a pool, we're doing this stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It allows us to triage what's most important, prioritize, but it is a slippery slope because everybody else has a priority that they like. That's how it balloons in the way that it did last time.
Mhm.
And then everyone was like, I don't need all those things, I just need my thing.
Well.
And that's when the public process will come in.
Yeah,
Right.
and I mean, you could do, in the next meeting, you could do a must-have and a nice-to-have so that people can still voice
Mhm.
other things, like if I might say like a must have is we must have family changing rooms. And a nice to have would be a gradual entry to the family pool.
The zero entry pool.
That, okay, yeah, that's what it's called. So that people could still feel like they could get their voice heard, but differentiate between like, this thing feels absolutely essential right now, and this thing, well, depends on the
Right.
cost, and depends on how many other people think that's important.
So I really liked how you broke it down, and maybe it would be good to have everybody just state like, so Christy stated an aquatic center, a multipurpose room, offices, and a locker room. Is there anything that you feel like is missing? Or that you would add, or,
Well, a big conference room,
Well, yeah, that'd be community space, I think that's what that was
yeah, for
right
the,
there.
their for the gathering.
For this,
For the
for parties,
parties.
for all that stuff.
That's
so-
access, not just from the pool, but from the lobby as well. and things
so a
like that.
community, so a community room,
Which is the
Um,
athletic.
right? And is perhaps different than the
community
than
center.
a multi-purpose room, so.
I don't know how those are different.
Yeah, I think they get
It's the
the
same thing, it's the
Okay,
exact
so,
same thing,
but-
it's just a room like
but-
this,
but-
bigger and nicer.
Okay,
Yeah.
so perhaps multiple, is that what I'm hearing?
I would say just flex space.
A flex,
Yeah.
okay.
I-
Flex space that's bigger,
Really, I think we should define it for them, and then if they think we need more, they provide that
Yeah.
guidance.
all right, so I mean, I guess like, so if we're talking about the space, that right now, this is what we have. Do you think that this is adequate space? Let's
Oh,
start with
for
that.
this room?
Yeah,
No.
Oh, no.
No.
okay, so the flex space that you were talking about needs to be twice the size of this room, the same size, I mean, like, so this would be probably like helpful information.
Yeah,
At least
you know.
twice this
Yeah.
room,
Right.
at least.
Like a standard kind of average classroom. Which I know is not numbers, like what is an average classroom?
Right, so we're talking where like
Yeah.
the ability to
Twice.
have meeting space and have a certain number of people, right? Like up to 40 people or.
Yeah.
Hard part is I'm afraid to ask for anything, and some of this they won't know, because as we're asking for the accoutrements of how big the classroom is. The storage space that the staff need to operate a facility like this is something that you can't sell, but is mandatory.
Mhm.
Yeah,
It's just like,
Yeah.
it's non-negotiable, the storage space here is non-existent and it does not work. And you have to build a bigger area with more storage
I
space.
assume that's up to the
Yeah,
architect.
they'll-
These people aren't gonna debate this, that stuff.
I know, but some of that stuff is gonna come out in a way of like, oh, we're not really asking, but it's.
Point, it's the things that you don't see that are also equally as important, so I'm gonna add in that, right? So like, it's like the functionality of pump room and storage.
I mean,
okay?
yeah, I don't think they need to debate the pump.
No.
I just.
I don't wanna
like-
use the stairs,
Yeah.
have to use the bathroom anymore, but I'm not gonna put that on the must have.
No, I mean,
Yeah.
it's, I mean, it's-
And I,
But that's where they're gonna be like, no, but you still have room there to give me my, my gymnasium. Actually, we don't, because that's gonna be in the
Right.
footprint of.
Yeah.
I think the office space, like, this needs to stay here. I think that's a huge, as a board member, that's my vote, is that I think it should be, this would be in the hub. This is where the people come to talk to people, to sort things out with Gio and Jaime or whoever.
Yeah.
It's like this, you need a hub that's, I think, linked to what we represent, which is the pool. So I think that needs to happen.
Okay,
Like,
so
it needs to have offices for you guys to work.
aquatic center, flex space that's bigger than the space that we have. Office space, locker rooms, and functionality of like storage.
And there's some things that, like, I didn't say like ADA access because I'm assuming like. we
Yeah.
have to
Right.
have ADA
Yeah.
access.
That's not
Right,
negotiable.
right. And I think to your point, like, we should just say the assumptions.
Okay.
Here,
yeah.
here are the assumptions
Mhm.
of what we are expecting out of this
Yeah.
project, right? And I think we can add
I
in
call it
this,
assumptions, it's mandatory, you
Yeah,
have to have ADA, you have to have storage space, you have to have mechanical space for a pool, like stuff like that, it's just, yeah. It just comes with
compliance,
this.
I mean,
this-
just regular
Yeah,
compliance.
yeah.
Mhm.
Is there anything else that is
Yeah.
missing? I mean,
There's plenty of things I want, but
Right.
as far
I
as,
mean,
yeah, so.
Basic, I mean, I,
the only.
I would like it to come across to them that because we put all this on the ballot, didn't mean that, that's what we want. What's what we wish the community could have.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But I think
Yeah.
having a brand new badass pool would be just great, you know, to start and then work our way up from there.
Yeah, I'd say.
So I love the, you know, this is,
I guess the only thing that I would suggest is like the reception area or the lobby area is like, do you feel like that's large enough?
I think they're getting into design stuff.
That's
then.
a-
Yeah.
I would really
usually
know.
the architects will make
Yeah.
it as the, like, try to use the space as
Yeah, that's,
best as
Mhm.
possible,
Yeah.
use the space that we have in the most efficient way.
Okay.
yeah. This is more about features.
And, okay,
I,
and so then, what about do you want questions to ask them?
Well, I think the either one or two questions, is there anything else that you as a group think is essential? And we might need some bar for like, do 75% of them need to agree that it's essential? Do something
Or
like
at least then that would be an option where you definitely make sure everyone there speaks for that
Yeah.
one, at least, or chooses to pass. But it's not one person just saying all the stuff or all the things they don't want.
And then a nice to have,
Yeah.
maybe.
Yeah.
That.
And I think that's a good way to approach it, is like a nice to have and a need to have, and
Mhm.
maybe give everyone those, 2 or 3 things, and then maybe put them up on.
So I definitely think that, one thing that we're probably going to get questions about, and it could be easy without addressing it,
Mhm.
is, roof enclosure.
Oh.
So some conversation around like um. Kind of scope of that, because like going back to like, is it gonna be retractable? Is it gonna be like, there's lots of ways that it can be done, right? Is it gonna, I mean,
hand crank.
yeah, hand crank,
It
roof,
worked for the first 6 months.
right? I mean, so, and so many different things cost, different amounts of money. I mean, do you want to have any sort of scope or give them any feedback on what you want or think is?
I think we should wait,
Yeah, I think that's further
I
up
have no
down the road.
preference on
it's
the
in a
on that
design
part.
Yeah,
feature.
Yeah,
I mean, I think we need to decide how big of a pool we want, or
Yeah.
like what the amenities that they want.
Yeah.
That's,
I definitely would not want to put on like, yes, we're going to have an open roof, a roof that opens, or no, we're not, without knowing like, what are the costs of
Yeah.
that?
Mhm.
Like, if that's another
Mhm.
5 million, I don't think a majority of voters are gonna support that. I
Mhm.
know I have a family member who would support that.
Mhm.
You know, I know a lot of people who swim the laps really care about that, but like, for the average person in Hood River who's gonna be voting on this, I don't know that like. I don't think that's gonna be a motivating factor, of
Mhm.
yes or no, but if it's 5 million more, I
Mhm.
think it will.
and I heard that's good, it's a retractable roof, it just has opulence.
Right.
Yeah.
So over and over, that's not Hood River, we're not opulence.
Right, I mean, and so should there be some defining ideas around that, I guess, like in terms of like what you,
can we decide that down the road?
well, no, I mean,
With
I don't
that?
even know that it's, right, I don't, maybe just of like, cost should be a factor, right, and,
Maybe that's kind of a guiding principle.
right,
Yeah.
yeah,
I already think
Yeah.
what we're at the stage of is we're sticking with year round. We're not going with the dials where this is
Yeah.
seasonal.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's what
That's
we're.
that's fine, that's
Yeah.
fine,
Just-
say,
just
we're doing a year-round facility.
year-round,
That's it.
yeah, year-round facility,
Yeah,
okay,
so that's.
we're putting that back up with
Yeah,
Someone mentioned how.
the expectation.
Yeah,
One that's more functional than the one we have now.
one facility, we're only talking about one facility here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
one facility, we're not doing multiple pools. Yeah.
I mean. We could maybe say something like, with some open air access.
with windows.
Yeah.
We'll have windows.
And that's
I promise you windows.
Definitely like garage door.
Big
type
roll up
thing.
garage, yeah,
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 garage
and
doors are
that's fine, but I don't know, yeah,
Yeah.
like,
That's a lot cheaper.
Yeah. Okay, so I do feel like year-round facility gives us more scope, right?
Lighting side panels.
Okay, I am kind of wondering if we could come back to the third point at the next meeting, if
Yeah.
what we have is enough for the next meeting of the advisory council.
Yeah, it is.
That's what we're cool right now.
The one thing that I did hear overarchingly was just the message that we need a messaging plan.
Yeah.
And that is surrounded to like the bonded levy,
Uh-huh.
and so. I do know that,
But do we need a
Yeah.
messaging plan before mid-July? around bond and levy.
No, but I think that they want to feel like we have,
They wanted to make sure that the community knew. They wanted to know what we were gonna send out on the flyer, and my understanding was that we were gonna send out stating that we are planning. On a new bond. But to be on the lookout for the future information.
Yeah, and the
But we
only
weren't
thing we're
putting-
talking about on the flyer is the pool.
Right.
Yeah. We're not bringing up parks and trails and all that stuff. on the
Right.
Bond or
flyer.
levy.
So I don't think we need to have any of that information before July of this next, the next thing. We could be here all night talking about that.
And my 2 cents is, I know that obviously time is of essence, but as long as we have an idea of what we're planning to do, I think as long as, I think really we have, January is really, we're gonna start ramping it up. If we start talking about this stuff in August or September, people are either gonna get burned out by the time they actually have to vote on it. And it's just, I think sometime in that's my opinion on it. I think January is really where we need to, that's I think deadline where we need to have the plan in place, but then I think that's when we actually start it, January, February. I don't think we need to stress yet about doing these decisions tonight. Especially not this early. Not until we at least have an idea of the scope of the pool.
Okay, so we'll come back to the third bullet point, next meeting to give guidance to the advisory council. Great.
Okay.
Just, we do have an executive session
Yes.
tonight,
Yeah.
and that's going to take some time, and we're already in it.
No, I told her, I did, it's gonna be a long one.
Pay a time anymore. I do not, just eat all the snacks I can eat. So I don't have to.
You saw a bunch of 30s on the agenda, I was like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
You just tell me when you need me to go.
Oh, we're not there yet.
Yeah.
Oh,
9 o'clock, but we're.
get comfy.
All right. Finance report. We covered a lot of this earlier, 85% is where we're at as far as expenditures. I keep on telling you guys, we're gonna hit 100% revenue, and we are there, 101. So we're doing really great. We do think that general fund is going to be coming in under budgets despite this changes that we made, which we explained earlier.
Yeah.
So, general fund is looking good right now. Recreation fund, total of all expenditures, 66%, but right now, that's once we bumped up the contingency and some others there, but 97% of our regular expenditures there, 96% is where we're at, total revenue coming in. And so this one again is tracking along, pretty nicely. It's just that with both of these in the mid-90s at this point, that's why we were making the reserve change right now. Because we do expect to go over that, before the end of this fiscal year with one more month left. The good news is we are collecting more revenue at the same time right now because we've got summer camp registration. And if we open up beginning soccer or mini World Cup registration during this fiscal year, we'll see a big boost in our last 2 weeks. System development fees, again, just under on what our projections have been for collecting inside and outside. I do have a note to bring in 8 years worth of trends, which Mike had asked for at the last meeting and asked if we could have that. Have that at the July meeting, which is on my list to do.
That outside UGB looks like it bumped up though in the last month, no?
Yeah,
Like that's a pretty good jump for it.
yeah. I mean, still under projections, but yeah, it looks like some permitting's been done out in the county. I don't know if that was development. I do keep on hearing these rumors of developments coming in, and different projects. I got an email from the building director the other day about a project over on Wasco Street that is kind of in the pre-permitting stuff, and I've heard a couple of others. So we're depending on what kind of facilities they put in there, we'll see some, we could see some stuff. Oftentimes, a lot of these big bumps that we see are like single projects, like when they were building out Stephen Crop neighborhood. And putting in little mini subdivision such. That's a huge boom all at once. Right now, we haven't seen any real projects. It's just kind of one-offs. And then investment fund, no change there from, any questions about the finance report? Okay, I wish Nan was here tonight. Yeah, you saw my bullets in there, that she has had such great attendance in all those meetings, so I think it's kind of funny that she's not here at the last meeting, but I understand her daughter has graduated college. And she said that they are going to Nashville and do the line dance, going line dance. Well, line dancing in Nashville with your newly graduated daughter, like, she made the right decision.
That's
And-
super fun.
And so, yeah, she has been, just an absolutely awesome board member. She's been the board president 2 times, and so I've gotten to report directly to her both those times, and she's been just a great, Boston report and a great, person has helped us with so many different projects, so I am going to miss her.
And we did get her a little, what do you even plant? Flower, I know she likes it.
Yep.
Uh,
And the card that's being passed.
and Ally's gonna keep it alive until we drop it off at the house.
Ally, I think, has somewhere around 80 houseplants, so we trust her.
I do too, but I mean, Ally has an app that tells her what to do for everything.
Insurance stuff, just our risk manager came through and identified a couple little things, and this fence post was wobbly, and so we fixed the fence post, and these are screenshots from this insurance portal that we have, where he puts in the things that we need to fix. So we just had 2 kind of deficient stuff, we fixed them within 1 week, added a handrail over here, fixed this fence. They were happy, we were happy, but it was a good visit, it's nice, out of Salem, they come out here and do a bunch of the places in Gorge. We did a walkthrough with him and our local agent Scott Rainier. And so, yeah, it's good to have, they're a great insurance company and do a lot of great stuff, specifically the risk manager stuff. And we went over the school district fee stuff, and I don't think we talked about that enough. And thank you very much to Dan and Martha for your support, last meeting. School enclosure study, public meetings. The next meeting is July 9th. We do have a newsletter that's going to be going out, soon. We're finishing that up right now, and announcing the July 9th meeting. The group wanted to know, or the architects were asking if we could narrow down or choose a date for at least the second meeting, if not the second, third, and I think we could probably do both of them. Just a reminder, the meetings right now, meeting 1 is kind of listen and educate. We want to hear from the public, and we also want to tell them a little bit about like what our constraints are, the different things around these sites and such, and let them know like that the pool really is falling apart, and they're getting their facility assessment report back before that. And gonna hopefully have some information on like the assessments and what is going on with this facility. We'll be doing that one here on this site. We'll be doing tours of the facility where people can sign up, maybe 20 people at a time, and we'll take them down to the pit, walk them around and such. People can bring their kids to swim for free as a way to try and get people in, and just doing a big thing here. The next meeting will be in September, and I put, gosh, this is that one that nobody can ever read because it's so small. But we'll make it a little smaller right there. Okay.
What time does the 9th kick off?
It's in the evening, 6
Six.
o'clock, it's after swim lessons, so
Got it.
we'll really need to head it out to the community to come out at night.
So like 6 to 8?
6 to 8, and we'll have food.
Yeah.
And
It's
we'll-
summertime though, you don't have school next day.
Did you say you have food?
Yeah. We're gonna put, we're gonna put some
Snacky stuff.
snacky stuff, but they were like,
About like, just about right at the barbecue and doing hot dogs and things like that too, or something.
Did you get like a food truck to come and people pay for it themselves, that park out front or something?
maybe.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
I think we had to eat that last time at Golden Eagle and not many people.
Yeah, we had
Oh,
to pay a
you
minimum, yeah. So,
I mean.
Yeah.
we can consider.
Marcy knows the chef. We're,
For people, just for my experience.
What is
hamburgers?
yeah. this, what we heard, the very first meeting here, we're going to try and do that as a dual location in one single day meeting. And so we would like to try and do like maybe a like 4 o'clock thing in Hood River and a 6 o'clock thing in, like at Mount Hood,
Parkdale.
yeah, Mount Hood Town Hall or something like that. And we can say that we've gone up to the Upper Valley and been here and do stuff. Since we are paying for the consultants, they are okay with doing 2 in a day, but we didn't want to try and do that in 2 separate days, because we are paying travel costs and a bunch of stuff and seeing if we can try and thread the needle in there. But the kind of the point of these 3 meetings is listen and educate what we heard, and then the final option. And I don't really like the title of final option. I think of this more as narrowing the scope or something like that, like and so what we heard will be the kind of, I think, kind of the main big meeting of just like saying, like, this is where we'll have all of the exercises there of, okay, we've heard people want like a lazy river. Well, this is what it costs, and this is what this costs, and this is what this costs, and here's, you know, and
Here's your
having
budget.
having these budget assignments and things where people can kind of figure some of this stuff out. We're still planning on exactly how we will do that, and then having like an interactive version of it. But what they want to know is they would like to have that, the dates for these laid out. What we were thinking about was, since we're doing one of them during the summer, let's try and do this after school starts.
Yep.
So pushing this to either the first or the second week in September. And then they will be doing a lot of like the design work on the concepts and stuff after that. They'll probably need about 6 weeks to do that design work. And so, this is kind of the 2 windows that we're looking at here for their first and second meetings. So we thought, let's bring it to the board and see, do we think it should be weekdays, weeknights, weekends? And
I say September
where
3rd
would
and
we
October 29th.
stick it within these 2?
About September 3rd and then October 29th. Too, just in terms of early in that September block and then late in the October block.
We talk about right over Labor Day for that first one, is that gonna impact?
Labor Day was first, so I think most people are back for work, but there could be some people taking the whole week off here, but.
I think the 10th though is like, they might start having like back to school nights and all that stuff that week.
Sure. School starts a week earlier now as well.
Yeah, but they usually do the back to school nights usually by the second week, but
It's probably a good thing to think about.
I wonder about the weekend after Labor Day, like. Probably most people are in town, schools started, you just had a holiday.
We tried to see if we could do it on the 6th or something.
Yeah.
like a Saturday.
Yeah.
You mean on the Saturday?
Well, he said weekend or weekday.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to figure out like how, like if we did a 4 o'clock thing on a weekday. If there'd be a lot of people listening, like, I can't do that, but you know, there are a lot of people that can get here at 4 o'clock, so.
Sunday afternoon, like,
And I think
just cause you're like, I'd be back home from wherever I was at, or just low key, it's still nice and warm.
I mean, for me, yeah, Sundays seem like they would be more flexible than Saturdays.
With all the youth sports happening on Saturdays.
Yeah, Saturdays for.
Usually sports aren't on Sundays generally.
try to promote it around the churches after you get done.
So like Sunday the 7th or something like that. I can come, I
And
can,
have a hot dog. And find out about the new pool.
Barbecue.
Food is always a thing.
yeah.
It really.
It really is.
Alright, so Sunday the 7th is what we're thinking, and then maybe we can back up in case there's the,
Are we doing 2 for meeting 2?
we're gonna try and do 2 on the same day.
So the 7th would be Parkdale and then, or vice versa, but.
One of the,
Hood River and then.
trying to do them both, and we'll have to talk, so the other questions they wanted to know was location. We already thought probably Mount Hood Town Hall seems like a good location that's got an indoor spot here, but if we do one here, we've already done the one here at the pool. The second one, do we wanna have it like somewhere else, like at a school or at the library or at, the fire station over here?
For the September,
For the September one, yeah.
well,
Here.
what's the format of that?
It will be more of a, So it'll be interactive. There'll be probably both a presentation with like telling what we heard, and then, an interactive thing of just like. Probably things like dot exercises, or they've got different, they've got lots of different ideas of how they will do it, but.
Fire station isn't available during any off non-business day hours. Because of staffing.
The cafeteria across the street.
Cafeteria is a good idea.
Appeal.
Oh,
So they still.
great.
That's the
Yeah,
NPR's
they-
gym, but
Or something,
Multi-purpose room.
that's the gym, the cafeteria is different, but
cafeteria.
both of those spots would work, or even the
And
old
then
gym.
possibly Mountain Head Town Hall.
There's also the adult center, that's good spaces.
For the adult, you're right, the adult
Little,
center,
like, Closer to Odell.
the adult center is actually super
Yeah.
nice, I went there not too long ago.
Yeah.
Near Odell.
Or you,
Well,
you know,
closer,
like,
Tucker Road, I mean, we'll.
Yeah, I'm like, the only one I know is the one
Yeah.
out over here.
The food, the fish food
Well-
bank has also.
yeah, that's actually,
Mid Valley people are comfortable coming into the heights.
Yeah.
Like,
Exactly.
I mean.
Have to go down the hill
right,
then, yeah.
so yeah, we can look at. So we can look into the adult center, Mountain Head Town Hall, cafeteria. That we're shooting for Sunday, September 7th.
Mhm.
And then,
And just to clarify, why Parkdale versus Odell, because doesn't Odell have a much higher population?
well, I mean, I think we could go to,
Sure.
Just somewhere in the valley.
yeah, where, it's like Mid
I
Valley,
don't think we can do 3 tonight. We can do
Yeah.
2, so which should we choose?
Mid Valley or. Pine Grove,
Well, I don't know, I mean, if we did like move a little bit
East.
out of town. And then did the other one in Parkdale, maybe that helps balance it out.
D.
D.
Let's do the last way.
Stop off at
Are
Tucker
you live in
Park.
Parkdale? Any opinions on it?
My
this?
farm,
Your farm?
put a nice PA system, you know.
Beautiful site.
Ah,
It's a beautiful site.
It is.
Yeah, I've been.
Hot dogs and drinks, that's it.
Whatever you want, tacos.
Yeah.
yes. All right,
Okay,
so we'll look at some alternate locations. To be determined.
If they bulk at the Sunday, the 7th, then probably a fallback of Wednesday, the 3rd, if we can try and make it work, so.
Mhm.
Okay. Okay, and then the second meeting, that would be a single meeting, probably here in Hood River. I think this could probably be a weeknight. This will be kind of the sharing, stuff, and then maybe narrowing kind of I think they call it the final option, but I don't know if we'll come down to a single one. Showing them like what all the different things are and or kind of like a presentation. So,
so that one, okay, so the narrowing, so would that be all of the advisory council? And then the public as well, is that the?
So I think that we would invite the advisory council to all of these public meetings, they're public meetings. We would still be debriefing with the advisory council at each monthly meeting that we have scheduled.
I'm just like, okay, so we have a single meeting to narrow the option. But it's just gonna be whoever shows up to that meeting, like. What else are we gonna be doing to make sure that the feedback is representative of the community?
they are, so each of these meetings is paired with a public, or with an online component or a way to like basically kind of do it like the same meeting as a virtual thing as well. And so things like if they are collecting, data, if they have like if they've got like, say, a dot exercise or surveys or whatever here, they will do that online and that will be open for like 2 weeks after the meeting. And we'll be pushing that, advertising that and saying, come fill out this and go through all of this
Even
stuff.
maybe
Additionally, so like what we did in the last
Mhm.
pool option study is that from like our meeting, created these slides of like, this is what has been discovered so far, right? We are going out into the community now, so it would probably be an ask from our board members to do things like go and present to the Lions Club, to the, you know, all of the different Rotary, you know, that sort of thing of like, we're doing this pool option study here, you know, and it would be kind of like a multi, you know, it might be probably after our second, or it might be around our second, in between our second meeting, our second public house meeting, where we then are kind of giving some marching orders to staff and to any board members who might want to participate to do presentations and get feedback from the community. And that was how in the last pool enclosure study, we hit just a lot of community groups that way to try to get more feedback, because we recognize that not everybody's going to come to a public meeting. So going out and getting the feedback.
I worry comparing, I balk a little bit comparing it to the last time around, because it seemed like it resulted in something that was more than the average voter wanted. So I just wanna make sure that this process
Is not the same.
yes.
Well, in one way, as we were talking about how to best market and push these things on websites and having easy of access and the like. Thinking about as we get closer to some of this, I mean, the board is named, but naming the advisory council too, probably asking for their permission to put them front and center. But like, these people have advanced knowledge as well. Tell them what you think, because they're bringing that back to us. And so it still spider webs out. If we're talking about, hey, you may know one of these advisory council individuals, let them know your thoughts. They're listening. I mean, that's what they signed up for, right? So now we are still going a little bit farther and wider in that respect. And it will just come to being able to have that moment of naming them with whatever we put on a website and saying, here's what our advisory council is doing. You may know some of these people. Shoulder tap, tell them whatever. But that, to your point, is the best of what we got right now, kind of, to go a little farther and wider than before.
Do you have other suggestions for ways to like get feedback from the public?
I mean, the online part is helpful. I know as was stated before, it's helpful to clarify that'll be with each one. I mean, I'm curious if they're gonna be collecting the like demographic data. I would assume that they are with that, but I don't know, like, so that we know, are we just getting like. Are 80% of the people hearing from like moms in their 30s to 50s, or are we also hearing from seniors, and we're also hearing from 20-year-olds, you know? Are we hearing from people all over? Or are we hearing from people who just live in like city limits?
That will ask for them.
So we still need the date for.
Yeah.
Wednesday, the 29th.
I can save you a lot of time, but just choose the date. After the 29th, that sounds good to me.
Me too.
Nailed it.
Okay, so we'll shoot for the 29th and try and do it,
Get that spidey sense that there's not that much that's gonna be happening that day.
Just Halloween week.
Yeah, exactly.
It's nothing big.
Not Friday the 31st.
That's how we keep the moms with kids from coming. We're like, it's on Halloween night, we know you're doing something else.
And that would be an evening, most likely evening. The Sunday one would be a daytime one. And the one in July 9th, is that also 6 o'clock meeting? Do you guys already have a time for
This is
that?
6 o'clock.
Okay.
Yeah,
What's the times for Sunday the 7th? I don't think that's been.
yeah.
It'd have to be
Sunday, yeah.
afternoon
I
sometime.
think we would have to have 2 meetings, and so it would, if we're having 2 meetings, we would need to do like a afternoon meeting and an early evening meeting.
We'll talk with the consultant. Figure that, we don't know the time.
Yeah, but I think to Martha's point, like by afternoon, most people are probably like getting back
Oh, yeah,
into
plus
town,
you don't want it
they've
in the
been
morning.
out of town.
Not church time's morning time. and stuff
Yeah,
too, so.
not church time.
Okay, I think I've got what I need there, and that is, it,
Decide for 3.
yeah, the 29th.
9:20.
Jace decided at the very beginning.
Sorry.
We wasted his time.
Yeah.
Why didn't you just ask me earlier?
Yeah, I can expect it to be, yeah.
Okay.
For length. Thank you for letting me listen.
Thank you for
For
sitting
being
here.
An audience.
When you were talking about the donor plaques,
Oh,
I thought of that, so.
I'll check it.
Look right.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jane.
Well, thank
Appreciate
you for
you.
what you guys do, and I am not going to spread information out on the options.
Yeah.
But that's exciting.
Yeah.
That would,
Move it.
yeah, that was
Good
cool.
conversation.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, can you do the announcement for,
Yeah.
oh, I'm sorry, I just quit sharing that, and I shouldn't have yet, unless you wanna read it off of this.
Okay, so we are about to enter executive session per ORS 192.660I. For review and evaluate the employment related performance of the chief executive officer of any public body. Who does not request an open hearing. The district board will now meet in executive session. All members of the audience are asked to leave the room. No decision may be made in executive session. At the end of the executive session, we will return to open session and welcome the audience back into the room. And is it correct? We have no one online anymore? Correct. Okay.
Can I run to the bathroom real fast before we start our things?
No, hold it. How we speed these things up.